jumping in mildly unprepared, but just tonight has completely gotten away from me. Let's get out of Marvel Strike Force land and head to just chatting. Oop. Done. Hopefully Ron will be here in a second, but also I want to try and do something real quick before he gets here. And then we'll go over a whole bunch of stuff, actually. It's going to be a good show. Should be fun. Why is that only... Oh, because this is the wrong thing. So where's the other one? Sup, Leroy? I apologize. I will fix that. Hey, Vral, how you doing? Sorry, guys. We are throwing like 18 things at the wall right now, trying to get things up and running. I was exactly as prepared as you'd expect me to be. All right, so maybe we can just do this. I don't think this will work as well. I thought I made a different copy of this, but whatever. So do that. We're going to save it. What's up, Diamond Dave? We got 6th, which probably doesn't sound that impressive, but I'm legitimately really happy with it. Considering the Murderer's Row, I will take 6th all day long. Until next time. Run 7's here. Fantastic. Thank you for giving the shout out to Diamond Dave. Give me one... Well, actually, here. No point in making you wait. Run 7. Call. Not a voice call. Let's put...
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Hold on, I'm trying to figure out my camera here. Oops, I gotta mute you on Twitch. There we go. All right.
No worries. Sorry, I was doing
sure.
like 19 different things and just this ran a little later than I wanted to. I wanted to get on here like 20 minutes ago and figure things out, but
Well, the weird thing is that I'm following you on Twitch, but like when I went and loaded up Twitch, it wasn't showing you as streaming. Like I had to manually search for your stream.
That's weird.
And like it shows I'm following you, but it just, I mean, and now like it forced you into the followed channels list once I came in here, but it was weird.
I mean, I did literally go live like 2 minutes ago, so...
As slow as my stream goes, maybe that's the reason, I don't know. Oh well, we got it going now. I think I want this one. I'm not sure. Is that what I want? I think so. And then, do you want me to... I can put my green screen in here so it greens me out. Let me go. I gotta...
Ideally, if you don't have your green screen on.
Oh, you don't want it green?
Because I can green screen... Like, if I see your green, I can green screen you from my end, right?
I mean, I can give you this screen where you can just chroma key out the green.
That's exactly what I mean.
So you should be able to just take this... Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm giving you a background that is a perfect green color, so it'll be easy for you to chroma key it out.
Nice. Okay.
It should be sending it to you now.
Yeah, I see it. I just need to... Oh, right. It's different because I did this with my brother last time. That's why I'm... Okay.
And then when you get a chance, share your screen too, because I don't want to deal with this Twitch delay.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay, so I did not get to finish X-Men 97. I'm pissed. I ran out of time, but I did finish Citizen Kane, which I am
even more pissed about.
Oh my goodness! Like I need you to walk me back from this one because there's so much going on in that movie. It's weird.
Yep, that's fair. So I want to capture, I guess, a display capture for Discord. I'm surprised. Woo.
You can do a window capture. You can do a display capture if you've got it blown up on an entire window.
Sorry, give me 1 second here. Yeah, so we did last time. We had you on this monitor, made you the entire monitor. And then brought in window capture. There we go.
Oh, you made me a mod. Oh, that's cool. I can see when your ad breaks are going to pop up. I've never been in with somebody's stream when I had the power to snooze their ad break. I didn't know that was a thing you could do.
Technically, I made you an artist because if you're actually going to perform on this channel, I figured you'd be able to have options to change things. So I don't know if the actual mods can do that or if that's...
You know so much more about Twitch streaming than I do.
Oh, yeah, says the guy who's fighting to get Discord going right now. Chroma key.
We all fight Discord. That's you're pro streamer if you're having troubles with Discord. That's just how it goes.
All right, let's see. We can get rid of your mic. I like how you're like. Can you? Oh, you can't see my screen.
I can adjust this here if you want a little bit more of me, like that. Would that
share
help
your screen?
And then I can move this mic over a bit to get that out of the shot some. How's that? And then I'm going to go grab myself some cold water to drink before we get going on this. I just wanted to get in here so you could have some setup time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate that immensely. Okay, so we are now way too big for this couch. Oh. So let's lock the couch in. Windows capture. And then grab the face cam. Make me smaller. I don't know. I don't know that we're actually going to fool anybody with this little camera trick, but what else? I think I'm zoomed in. No, I'm not. Weird.
So I've got my microphone moved out of the shot more. If you want to try and widen that window out to try not to cut my arm off if you want, or it's like right there. Because like the mic boom was in the shot, but I moved it out of the way so you don't need to close that window off so much if you don't want to. That's a little bit better. I don't know if that helps.
I mean,
I didn't know we were going to be sitting on the couch for this. I thought this was just a thumbnail for
no.
the video.
I thought it would be kind of fun.
Cool as a thumbnail, though. This is cool. I dig it.
I figured try and like make it look like we're sitting together.
On the floor in front of the couch is what it looks like.
Well, it's Wayne's World is exactly what I was going for, Vral. Well done. You should see the other picture I sent. Fucking Brian over here. He was like, hard no. Couch. Yeah. I'll post that in Discord for who cares to see. But I was like, this looks amazing. He's like, no.
So that's what you were going for, was the Wayne's World couch? Okay, that makes a lot more sense actually now. Okay.
Just like an 80s couch, more so than the Wayne's World couch specifically, but definitely that kind of a vibe.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you cutting your nails? Okay. I don't know. For some reason, my brain was like you were rolling something or something going on over there.
Oh, yeah. We're going to chill on this one now.
Yeah.
Yes. I fidget a lot, so I have to have nail clippers here or I'll start biting my nails. I have to have little fidget spinners and things to keep my fingers busy. Otherwise, I'll just be all over my face with my hands. I just touch my face like crazy. So I try and keep different things around to occupy my fingers. I'll sit here and spin my pen in my fingers and stuff like that. I was trying to remember the things that I watched that I was going to talk about. Oh, that's right. I remember now.
I have a couple of those, and then I did watch the director's cut, like you asked me to. And you've seen Citizen Kane, which we'll definitely touch on.
Yep.
Can't talk about X-Men 97, which is a little unfortunate. And then do you have your 20 movies?
No, I don't have my 20 movies. Okay. I don't have that yet. Shoot, I forgot all about that.
No, that's fine. We could do, because I mean, realistically, if we go over, like, we're not going to go super in depth like I go with my brother on the top 5. That'll take way too long. But if we do my top 20 this week, we can do your top 20 next week, and just like that could be an hour right there.
Honestly, yeah, we could. Yeah, 20 movies is a lot in the first place. So because I kind of prefer doing it that way. Then I get a good idea of of what you really had in mind for this top 20. Like, how artistic did you want to be, or are you going to include some really kind of weird, just zany stuff? Like, I don't know. I'm
Aren't you the
curious
one
to
that
see
asked
what your top 20
me
is.
to do the top 20?
Yeah, but
okay.
I don't know where you're going to go. Like, you are a way deeper movie aficionado than I am. Like, you know the details behind the movies. I just watch a lot of movies, is all.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right. I'm gonna go run grab a bottle of water to drink, and I'll be right back before we get started. Okay.
Sounds good, bud.
All right.
All right. So while he's doing that, what we're talking about here is I think this is our first actual time doing this on a Thursday, which is the actual time slot for this show. So every other week, I'm going to get together with Brian here. And then other than that, we're going to have 1 week with my brother Jonathan. We're going to do a top 5 list. And the next one that we're going to do is shocking or twist endings to movies. So that'll be in 3 weeks, I guess, which is way too soon. I need to figure that list out. And then the 4th week, I kind of have an idea where I'm going to bring on a different guest every month and kind of go over their whatever list they want to do. Like, so next one up, I've talked to Cleaning Agent. He's going to come up with a top 5 list of some kind, come on the show and just present me with that. Now, I won't have a top 5 to go with him. We're just going to talk to him and discuss movies and whatnot. And then after he's gone, we'll probably bring a different guest on and kind of go that way. So that should be a lot of fun. Now, as I said, I'm really unprepared for this one, unfortunately. But one of the things that we're going to be doing on this channel, as people who have been around know, is I'm going to throw out some random trivia throughout the episode. And if you are the first person to score it, I'll get your name and write it down. And if you're the second person, I'll do that as well. And then at the end of the year, probably the anniversary bash in October, we'll do an actual giveaway for people with the highest scores. Now, in order for your score to count, you do have to be subscribed. But other than that, it's just kind of a fun way to pass the time. And I'll stop doing this spiel every single time, but this is like the first actual episode with Brian here. So Brian, please don't answer the question.
Okay.
Sorry, but because you're on here, you can't really. All right.
Hold on. I'm gonna switch my thing so I'm looking sort of the right direction. Here we go. How's that?
I can also just flip your camera if that's easier than switching all your monitors.
No, then my Nintendo controller would be backwards, and that would just ruin it for me.
Oh no. What is the name of the distant moon that Avatar and Avatar 2 take place on? Anybody can answer except for Run. Sorry. All right.
Well, I'm not a fan of Avatar, so I don't know that.
I've been watching James Cameron recently, and they all kind of make the same. They all feel similar, but like amazing. All right, Strategist in there with first place, and then Pandora right behind him. Well done, guys. And yes, it is Pandora.
Double O gold right on his heels there.
And that's why I like to do 2. Because, like, I feel like if you know the answer, you're going to be able to do it faster than if you Google the answer, right?
Yep.
But I also don't want one person to speak and everybody just stop talking. It's like, no, let's get the audience engagement in on this one. All right, so you have not seen X-Men, and we'll get to Citizen Kane later. So what have you been watching, Run? Brian, I'm going to do that a lot.
That's okay. That's okay. So I went and I rewatched the latest Predator release, Prey.
Ooh, that's
about the Native American Indian girl who ends up fighting the Predator back in the 1700s with the French trappers. Because I saw it when it first came out, and I remember really enjoying it like I haven't enjoyed a Predator movie since the first one. And I was actually talking with a buddy of mine, Sam, and I had mentioned that I thought it was almost and possibly as good as the original because they went in a different direction with it than the rest of the franchise has been trying to do. And I thought it really worked well. They actually made me get interested in the character themselves, which is something they haven't done. I don't think in Predator 1, they didn't even really do it. They just had a bunch of buff, burly dudes in the jungle with huge guns, and it was just like awesome, a fantastic 80s action flick, right? But this one, you actually felt compelled and you were interested and you were rooting for this character as she struggled to go through. And the movie doesn't really even take off until a good 30 minutes into it, right? They take that long to develop their characters. And I think it worked. It really worked. Because once it starts going, you're hooked on that and you're rooting for her and even for her brother, who is an interesting character as well. And so I wanted to rewatch that because when I had mentioned how good it was, people were like, oh, I don't know if it's that good. It's definitely the second best, but I think it's miles behind the first. Well, I rewatched it, and I think I stand by it. I think it is really, really close to the first one. It's just so different, it's hard to compare the two. Have you seen Prey?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen Prey twice now. I watched it once by myself just to see what it was about, and I absolutely loved it. And I waited a couple of months, and I was like, okay, my kids are getting a little bit older. They want to see some more like horror-y things, but I don't really want to show them any horror movies. But I was like, this one's got enough elements that are like kind of freaky, kind of bloody stuff they've not really seen a whole lot of before without it being like, I mean, I'm pretty sure it is rated R, but it's not like a hard R.
I think it's PG-13 actually. I don't remember, but I actually was thinking, can I watch this with my kids? Which the answer is definitely no, because my kids are too young for it. But I always kind of like fudge and let them watch stuff that they probably shouldn't.
Yeah, no, for sure. We're pretty bad parents when it comes to movies. Sometimes we allow them to get away with some violence, gore, language. The only thing we really try and stick away from is like sexual content. But other than that, we're pretty awful as far as that goes. And I just remembered another movie on my list. But no, I've seen Prey with them. So I've seen it twice. Once with them, once by myself. I really like it.
It is R-rated.
It's kids loved it. It's so you're saying it's got definitely more story and plot and character development than the first one does. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think the first one gets away with being an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. So you go into it with a certain amount of love for the character that isn't necessarily earned by the movie itself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you just instantly are like, oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm going to enjoy this. There are some great moments in the first one. I still do enjoy the first one, to be sure. But I think if you were to introduce them to a new generation, Prey is a way better entry point to just be like, here's an actually fully developed movie that you can enjoy. The characters are good. The plot's interesting. You don't need to know anything about Predators. I mean, if you do, it'll kind of help with like... The other thing I can really think of is the fact that he explodes at the end. Spoilers, the Predator loses.
And I think, like you said, it's a great entry point, and if you enjoy it, you can circle back around to Predator 1 and go to Predator 2, and then at the end of Predator 2, you realize you've gone full circle. And I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but there's definitely the tie-in so that it is like the trilogy. And I think if you're starting on Predator right now new, I think like what you said is great. Start with Prey, and then go back around and watch the other two. Yeah. And we're not going to talk about AVP. I kind of think those were... Well, we can talk about AVP if you want to.
No, I'm good.
I'm very frustrated with those.
I saw AVP once when it first came out, and that was enough. And then I think they made a sequel, and I'm like, I'm good.
AVP Requiem was the worst. Absolutely horrible. It was atrocious in the way that Alien 4 was, Alien Resurrection, or whatever that was, Regurgitation. It was like that, where it was just an abomination that you wish they had never made in the franchise. I can get on board with AVP, the first one. There were so many plot holes and so many things that didn't make any sense. It was just, okay, it's Alien versus Predator, and there were really good fight scenes. But I was very frustrated that they missed such a golden opportunity to bring those two franchises together.
Yeah. I've heard, not taught, like nothing official by any stretch of the imagination, but I've heard a lot of different podcast people talking about now that they've done Prey and it was successful enough, especially considering I think it came out during the pandemic, so it was kind of hamstringed right out the gate. What it would be really cool is if they did like a feudal Japan Predator movie. So you had like a samurai or something, like a Ronin, like a disgraced samurai who has to protect his clan or honor or something against the predators. Like that sounds pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie. I've heard nothing official that that's happening, but I really want it to now.
I think that would fit very well in with what they've done so far. I think that's an excellent place to go next.
Yeah. Especially if you can get like the talent, whoever made, I don't even know the director, but whoever made Prey. Bring them back again and again for all I care. That was great.
Dan Trachtenberg is who directed that one. I'm unfamiliar with them, but I will be watching for more of their work because I thought it was definitely a winner in my book.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a huge fan of Predator and Aliens. I've watched all of their movies, their shorts, the fan-based content for Aliens and Predators. There's some really good ones out there. There's some really poor ones out there, of course. And I was a big fan of their comic books as well. Really like those Dark Horse comic book series of the Predator. I thought they were amazing. So I like those.
I know there's a off on a tangent. I know there's a Batman Predator series that's meh, but apparently there's a Wolverine Predator that like just came out fairly recently and is getting fairly decent reviews. I haven't read it yet. But...
I'll have to go check that one out because I'm a big fan of Wolverine as well.
Agreed.
Did you want to go next, or do you want me to go to the next one that I watched?
No, we can go back and forth.
Okay. What are you on to these days?
I saw a couple of interesting ones in the last little bit. And interesting does not necessarily mean good. So, depending on... let's keep it silly at first. So, my wife decided that she wanted to watch The Craft with our daughters. Our daughters are 12, for context, twins. Have you ever seen The Craft? From like 1995,
one,
96? Yeah. Okay.
There's some 4 girls that get into witchcraft, isn't that it?
That would be correct. I have never seen it. I wish I could still say that. It was not good, and there was multiple times during where I'm watching this just being like, should I be watching this with my kids? I probably shouldn't be watching this with my kids. Like, we skipped a couple of scenes, but like there's a whole lot of chanting and all kinds of stuff, which like I'm not a religious person, but I was raised as a religious person, and it just kind of goes against everything. It was just one of those like
I think when The Craft came out, there was like a subset of teenagers that were really into that. That's what that movie felt like it was marketed to. That kind of pre-emo look where before Wiccans were a thing, there was kind of this subset that teenagers were really into that sort of thing.
I think you have to go
rebel, the outsider and stuff.
You have to go a lot further back than 96 but we get pre-Wiccan.
Yeah.
It's definitely a Hot Topic style of a movie. Like you definitely have like probably The Crow, The Craft, and Nightmare Before Christmas. Nightmare Before Christmas. Like those
Pumpkin Jack?
Yeah. Like all 3 of those kind of like shaped a generation of like goth kids, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, they opened the door for that for sure, or at least they were there when the door was opened.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was interesting seeing some of the characters like Skeet Ulrich, I think his name is. Like this is even pre-Scream, like he's super young in it, and it's just I don't know. It was a hard watch for many reasons, let's say. Sport Dingo, Nightmare Before Christmas was my entire wardrobe, is why my entire wardrobe is black. People love that movie. I've never fully understood it, but it is a well-loved cult classic.
Yeah, Neve Campbell in there.
Shoot, I should have had the actual actress's name on this one. The main actress. Bring
stuff up as we talk about it here.
Is I did that the first time we got together. I was more prepared. Not Rooney Mara.
Reuben Tunney?
That's the one.
Reuben Tooney?
Yeah. I recognized her, and I'm pretty sure I saw her in. There's a TV show that she's in, and I thought she was okay in that one, but she has some line delivers in this one where I just burst out laughing, and like my kids are looking at me like, "What's going on, Dad?" Like, have you ever seen The Room, the famously most awful movie? That's a really blank look. I will send you a trailer. Is it so
bad I should watch it?
I don't know. I've never seen it because it's one of those ones I want to watch with friends, but it's the kind of movie that's so bad that they like rent out movie theaters and it sells out. Like it's almost like Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of a thing. Like it's at that kind of status. I own it, and I can't get anybody to watch it with me. So I'm like, all right, I don't want to watch it by myself. That sounds boring.
I can put it on my homework list. I'll jot it down as a note. If it's bad enough that it should be watched,
I will send you a trailer, and you can decide from there if it's worth it.
Does that have like the bellhop guy that's running around? Or am I thinking of the wrong movie? Hold on, I'll just take a look here.
That might be 4 Rooms.
That's 4 Rooms. You're right. I'm thinking of 4 Rooms.
Yeah. No, this one is. They made a
with Tommy Wiseau.
Yes, that's the one.
Oh dear.
They made a movie called The Disaster Artist, starring James Franco and Seth Rogen, about this movie because it is like kind of hit that cult status. You know what I mean? Like it's so well known for being so awful. Anyways, the point is there's some really awful lines in that are just like laugh out loud funny, and The Craft had some of those as well, where I couldn't keep a straight face as she's delivering some of these lines to her boyfriend. I'm just like, whew, okay. Sorry, you came super prepared, and here I am stumbling on every single word and character name. I'm just like, all right, I need to look up IMDb on the next one while you talk about whatever your next movie is.
Okay. I watched one that kind of surprised me. Now, I sat down with my wife because I like to watch a wide variety of stuff. Okay. And my wife naturally likes the chick flicks, romantic comedies. And I do too, actually. I sat down and I watched Anyone But You.
Okay.
And this movie started off pretty rough for me. I couldn't get a grip on where it was going. The premise is that these two people meet, they bump into each other, and they just have an incredibly wonderful evening where some embarrassing things happen to the girl at a coffee shop, and he helps her out, and they end up just spending the entire day walking around the city, everything just perfect, and they fall asleep together on the couch. Nothing sexual happens, but there's clearly chemistry between the two. And then she wakes up in the morning and she sneaks out of his apartment, and then she's on her phone with her friend saying what a wonderful guy he is, and she goes, why am I walking away from him? And she turns around to go back and exchange phone numbers or whatever, but make it more than a fling,
sure.
Right? And when she comes back into the room, his roommate comes in, and his roommate's like, oh man, did you stay the night with her and whatever? And he's, embarrassed that he fell so hard for this girl. So he's acting all macho, like, oh, she's nothing or whatever. And she overhears him saying that. And so she turns around and leaves without him knowing. So he thinks that she snuck out, and she thinks that he is just an F-boy. I don't know how much we're cursing on this show.
Little as possible, but I'm going to sneak out, so once you do, I'm sure.
Right. So then fast forward a few months later, and I can't remember. I think it's her sister and one of his best friends are getting married.
Okay.
And they are invited to the wedding, and of course they're paired up together, and they hate each other, right? And so it's this, they have to get through this wedding and be respectable to each other. And the weird thing is they take a different spin on this, and the other people at the wedding try to get them to hook up, basically, so that they'll kind of like bang and get it out of their system and stop fighting so much and stop it being a disaster. And they realize that they are being led to hook up. And so they just play along with it to get everybody to stop. So they're pretending to get along, even though they actually hate each other. So that's the premise of the story. It makes for a really interesting story. There's a lot of things that happen in the story that I was like, why are they even doing this scene? What is this scene for? And what was really cool is I hung in there, and it ends up getting really good, and they circle back around to all these weird things that happen, and they end up actually happening for a reason. The romantic drama and the places that they go and the romance scenes and all that stuff are so over the top, it's crazy. But hey, it's a romance movie. That's what you're there for, right?
Yeah.
I actually, in the end, really enjoyed it. There's a musical montage that they did that took such an incredible amount of forethought to do it. They basically go back through the entire movie, and every different scene in the movie, when they get done filming that scene, apparently they stopped and had the cast sing this one song.
Really?
And so they do a musical montage of the song, and you see all of the different scenes throughout the movie, which was really cool to watch. It was a lot of fun. All these people just singing and dancing in this song and doing all these scenes. Note for the guys, there's a lot of cleavage in this movie and a bit of nudity as well. So if that's what gets you through,
I just wrote it down.
This chick flick, don't worry, it'll keep you entertained. And then, of course, like I said, everything is over the top, just incredibly beautiful scenery. Like, you could not go to these places and not fall in love with someone where they go and the things that they do.
Yeah.
But I really ended up enjoying it. It took a while to get there, but it does come together in the end. And I thought it was, as far as those romantic comedy types go, it was a really good one by the end of it.
Nice. That's Sydney Sweeney, right? Is the lead female?
Yes. And
sorry, I didn't mean to call you out on that right away.
She is one of the girls from Madam Web, which I started watching, but also was unable to finish. I didn't get to finish Madam Web, but I didn't realize she was in it. And so my wife and I started watching Madam Web, and I was like, oh, wait, she was in the romantic comedy we just saw. And it was interesting to see her play those two very different roles. And I always appreciate an actor or actress who can do a multitude of looks when they get in there and play different roles. So I thought that was really cool. I don't know if Madam Web's going to be great. I'm not really holding out for that one. So far, it's pretty rough so far, but I kind of knew that going in.
I don't think it gets better. Just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I didn't think it was either. I'm going to finish it because, I'm kind of a Marvel fan, so I'll get through it.
I've watched every MCU movie, and I will continue to do so probably until they stop making them. But the Sony universe is a tough watch, and I'm just like, I don't know. I haven't seen Morbius yet. I don't plan on watching Madam Web anytime soon. Craven's a hard pass. Like, don't think so. We'll see. Love to be wrong on that. I'd love for one of them to really nail it. I thought Venoms were kind of fun. Like, the Venoms were okay. Not great.
Yeah, I like two
fine.
better than one, but they're getting a little better. They're okay.
All right. So here's one that I've seen before, but I watched it again with my wife, is one that I watched on my own just because I really like the actors that are in it. And it was the kind of movie that starts a conversation. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I wanted to watch it with my wife, and it just took us probably close to a year to do so. And honestly, it's not one that I wanted to watch back to back anyways. Have you ever seen The Last Duel?
This sounds familiar, but no, I don't think I have.
It's a Ridley Scott movie. It stars Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Adam Driver. Takes place in like late 1300s France, I want to say.
Oh, I heard this was absolutely terrible. Somebody told me they hated this movie, and so I didn't bother watching it. So fill me in. How'd it go?
So I'm not. Depends on what you're looking for in a movie. If you're looking for Gladiator, yeah, no, that's right, or Braveheart, this is not that. That is not this kind of movie. It's also a hard watch. It's the... Okay, so I'm going to try my best here. I'm not going to... Oh, I got the names in front of me. Never mind. So what happens in this movie is a movie that takes place over 3 different storylines. So you're going to see the same scenes over and over again from different people's perspectives, which I actually really like.
Right.
It's an honor... It's, I believe the last honor duel ever performed in France. Is the...
Okay, so it's based in reality then?
It is based in... Well, I mean, it's the late 1300s. I don't know how great our records are from back then, but yes. So what happens is it starts off with the story of Sir Jean de Carouge, who is Matt Damon's character. And during...
you can even pronounce that, let alone remember that name, just blows me
I'm literally reading it off the screen.
Okay. Oh, there, Jean de Carouges. Okay.
Well, okay. Canadian, French is our second language, so there's that.
So you go, okay, that's
also,
right,
I'm literally reading
does
it.
not know anything outside our borders. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So the movie starts off with, and I don't know. Anyways, movie starts off with Jean de Carouge as the main character, and it even says, like, story number 1 or something like that. And what they're doing is they are trying to protect a fort and the bridge leading up to the fort, and so they're stuck on that side, and they've got orders to stay on that side to protect the fort. But the enemy, whoever they are, I don't think they really even get into it, is like slaughtering peasants on the other side, like very like, come and get us, like they're just bringing them out and executing them. And
Oof.
Matt Damon's character is like, no, we can't stand, we need to go in service of the king, and all the people are cheering for him, and he runs across, and they end up saving nobody and losing the bridge and the fort and like failing horrendously but surviving essentially, right? So the campaign is a failure. And as you go through his story, he is like the son of a captain or something like that, and like life has been kind of handed to him, but he doesn't appreciate it. So he's kind of, I don't want to say an idiot, but just like kind of waffling through life. Whereas Adam Driver is sucking up to Ben Affleck, who is not the king but the Lord. And so Adam Driver, who started with nothing, you're seeing his star rise and rise and rise and rise. And he's even starting to get things that were supposed to be Matt Damon's. So Matt Damon's starting to get like... English is just completely failing me today. I am so sorry, guys. It's been a long day.
Was he
resentful.
jealous of this?
He's getting very resentful of him because Adam Driver's getting everything that he's supposed to be getting. Ben Affleck hates Matt Damon, but really likes Adam Driver, so he's getting all the favors, stuff like that. But as you're seeing this storyline, obviously Matt Damon is the hero of the story. He goes off to fight in Ireland and comes home, and his wife tells him in tears, like, while you were gone, I was raped. And he kind of gets upset and whatnot. And then you cut away from his storyline. You then go to the exact same battle again at the very beginning, but now you're taking it from Adam Driver's perspective. And in Adam Driver's story, Matt Damon is like, let's go, boys, we got this, and charges across the river, and nobody moves. And like Adam Driver's like, we got to go like protect this guy. Like, we got to save him. And they're like, no, we were told to stay here. And he's like, if we let him go, he's going to die. We need to go. Like, he's the knight. We need to follow up with him. So it's just interesting seeing like a different perspective. And I'm not going to get into like every kill thing along the way, but that's kind of the basic idea of it, is that you're going to see how these different characters interact with each other, how they saw each other throughout the thing. So from Adam Driver's perspective, Matt Damon's kind of a drunk and kind of useless and kind of can't get out of his own way. Okay. So we get to the same scene. I don't know how much you want me to go into detail on these sort of things, but essentially,
go ahead.
It is known that Adam. That's fine.
I have a feeling I'm going to pass on this one. But
That's totally fine.
I do love movies where they show different perspectives that makes you change the way you think about the story. So I can't appreciate that.
So from Adam Driver's perspective, he is a ladies' man. He often doesn't take no for an answer from women who don't actually mean no. Don't take anything like that from me. That is what you get from the movie.
Dater.
Sure. A 1300s aggressive dater. So when he approaches Matt Damon's wife and she says no, he thinks she's playing, and the rape continues. And then you kind of go a little bit further in the storyline there where it starts getting to the actual like judicial process of what's going on. Mm-hmm. And then it goes back, not all the way to the beginning, to where the wife is first introduced to the movie, and then continues on through her perspective. And so you can see some moments where like he thought she was flirting with him and she's openly mocking him, but he doesn't. Like, there's just like, there's little things like that throughout the movie that I find really, really interesting, especially the second time through, because the second time through you kind of know what's coming and what's happening, so you can kind of pay attention to it a little bit more. And it actually goes all the way through the trial. And the thing with the trial is, in 1300s France, and probably most places, women were property. So even if she accused him of rape, she actually has to get her husband to accuse him of damaging his property. That's what he's actually being accused of. And it's just so infuriating how women are treated in this. She's getting approached by friends she's getting ignored by friends who won't talk to her because she's dared to say something. Her own mother-in-law is like, yeah, it's rape. Get over it. Calm down. We've all been through this. Like, this is just the way of the world. Know your place.
Incredibly common back then, unfortunately.
For sure. But it was, as I said, it is a hard watch, but it's an interesting conversation. So it's more of my wife and I sat and talked for like 45 minutes after the movie was done, whereas a lot of time we finish and we'd be like, okay, bedtime.
Okay.
And it does end obviously in a duel, and the duel is also quite graphic, and like if you care, you can watch it and see who wins there. I won't spoil everything, and there's a lot of twists and whatnot in between, but that's essentially the breakdown of the movie. I don't know that it's one that I'll ever watch again. Probably the only reason I watched it for the second time is to show my wife, but it's not one where I'm like running out to see it on a Friday night with friends or anything like that. Like, it is, it's interesting, but it is a tough watch.
So basically, you've given me two things to watch, and you've basically stated that these are pretty bad watches for
No.
The Room and The Last Duel. Both pretty horrible, but they're on my list of things that maybe I should check out.
Well, in fairness, I gave you a classic last time, and you watched it in 19 parts and barely finished it. So, like, I don't know, I'm still feeling you out a little bit. Here's the greatest movie ever made. No. Okay. Here's the worst movie ever made. No. Okay. Here's a random movie.
The spectrum okay. All right.
Oh man.
So let's see. I watched something. So I watched Rebel Moon the first half a while ago.
Okay.
When it first came out, and just recently watched Rebel Moon 2, and then watched it again because I was invited to a movie night, and I try not to pass up on those, but usually end up passing up on those all the time because of my schedule. Anyway, so I watched Rebel Moon, the second part, again to see how I felt about it, and I still felt it had entertainment value, but it was kind of very cliche. If you haven't seen Rebel Moon, it's, I don't even know, I guess there's a history to this movie, a background or some sort of lore or something. I don't know. I just came into it and saw, okay, I heard about this, I'm going to watch it. So I watched the first one, and it's pretty interesting. It's like a farming village that's going to be attacked by this oppressive empire, and they gather warriors to help protect their village. And so that's the first movie. The second movie is the warriors actually training up the village, teaching them how to protect themselves, and then working with them against this empire. And they are incredibly outnumbered. Like, they have this huge mega warship that comes in from outer space and into the atmosphere and drops down all these like battle tank ships that walk around. Lots of sci-fi aspects. A lot of aspects of, like, there's this like a robot who's kind of a Ronin, and he's trying to figure out what he wants to do because his master is gone, so he can't take action for himself. But he is watching this village, and he's clearly starting to make decisions for himself and want to help them, but he's programmed not to do anything. So that's this weird thing that's going on in the background. Then you've got these warriors that all have their own individual stories and why they hate this evil empire, and they're all on their own individual redemption arc, and so they're interesting little sub-stories that are taking place. And then finally, of course, the great big battle. You want to know, how are they able to overcome these odds of this evil empire and defeat them? And it's cool. It's nothing you haven't seen before. It's more like a conglomeration of several different stories that we've all seen before. I thought it was done pretty well. I thought it had some entertainment value. It's nothing you're going to write home about. I don't feel like I wasted my time watching it or even rewatching it. I will say, the lead character, who is the kid from Mad Max Fury Road, he's the one that's got the boils on his neck, and he's out to get Max in the beginning. I forget this actor's name. Maybe you can look it up for me. He plays not the emperor, but the guy who's trying to rise through the ranks. And so he wants to bring down the Scargiver, who is the lead warrior chick, and she kind of worked for the empire but turned on them and left to be free, and she has a whole backstory that goes on. And so his goal is to kill her, because that'll bring him fame and glory and raise him through the ranks in the empire. And so he's hell-bent on destroying this woman. Well, in the first movie, he gets beat up pretty bad. I don't want to spoil too much, but he gets beat up to the point where they thought he was dead, and they rebuild his body in the next one. And like, they're all talking about like, he's suffered severe brain damage. We're not even sure if he's all there or not. And they make him sound like he's already a really evil, horrible person. But now he's like mentally unstable, psychotic, crazy, kind of weird. And they're like, we need to give him the test before we can let him go back into command. And instead, he like kills the people who are supposed to test him to see if he's mentally stable. The guy's way off his rocker, and I felt he did an amazing job in his role. I really felt like this guy is scary, evil, bad. And then because they rebuild his body, he's like super fast, super strong, all that stuff. So he makes for an incredible opponent physically in war. And so I really liked that aspect of it. And all the stories were interesting, really colorful, some great cinematography. It was like, it was like a 8, maybe a 7.5 out of 10, I'd say, on like everything. It wasn't the best I've ever seen. It wasn't bad, but it kept me involved. It kept me watching, and I enjoyed and appreciated it for what it was. Do I want to watch Rebel Moon 3 if they go there? Probably not, but I'll pick it up just to see if they do. I don't think they're going to. I'm not really sure. Sort of a cliffhanger ending, but sort of not. Like, they could wrap it up there and be done, and it wouldn't be a big deal. But I thought it was pretty cool. Did you happen to ever see Rebel Moon?
I have not. My understanding of Rebel Moon is that it's Zack Snyder. It's a Zack Snyder movie where he essentially was supposed to make Star Wars and then lost the project and was like, well, screw it, I'll go make my own Star Wars with blackjack and hookers, and just kind of went and made Rebel Moon. Now, the thing with Zack Snyder is I'm not a huge fan, to be perfectly honest, but I heard rumors that he's going to be making a R-rated director's cut of Rebel Moon when it comes out.
Oh, really?
And I'm kind of like, if I'm going to watch one, I'm probably going to wait for that. And if it never happens, I'm probably not going to lose any sleep over it. Like, I watched the trailer. I actually did a trailer reaction for it way back when. It looks fine, but like nothing jumped at me. And it's one of those, like, if I'm bored enough, sure. but this isn't something my kids or my wife are likely to watch with me. So if I'm watching it, like, it'll have to be one that I watch on my own, and it's gonna be one that because there's 2 parts, I kind of need to set aside like 4 hours, 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So it's just like
I'm pretty sure each one's almost a full 2 hours.
I don't know. I'm a big sci-fi fan, but there's just nothing.
You know,
like as all chat is saying, like, it's just Star Wars, it's Clone Wars, copyright safe Star Wars. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I guess I kind of felt a Star Wars vibe, but it felt more like one of those Japanese stories. Is really what it felt like. This village gathering warriors to protect them, and all these warriors had their own backstory.
Okay.
So, I heard the Star Wars thing, and I was like, okay, like I see that, but it didn't feel like a direct rip of Star Wars. So I thought it had its own voice and its own angle. But like I said, it wasn't anything you haven't seen before. There are definitely allusions to everything throughout the movie. It's all kind of been done before, but it was entertaining. I enjoyed it for what it was. And if you say if a rated R cut comes out for that, I think I will watch it, because one of the things I liked the most was the evil bad guy. And if making it rated R allows them to add to that character, I want to see what they can do.
Yeah. I just have like a little trailer playing in the background. Like, I can't hear it or anything, but I'm seeing lightsabers all over the place.
Yes,
you're talking about like a farm boy who has to go up against the evil empire, who has a big spaceship coming. I'm just like, it sounds a little Star Warsy.
They do have some energy swords, and honestly, these energy swords were really cool. It was like a really cool sword fight, but the swords glow, and they left this really cool contrail through the air. And I thought that just made it visually stunning. It didn't feel like a lightsaber battle to me. It felt like a sword fight that was taken to the next level. And it felt like they were trying to avoid being lightsabers as best they could.
Yeah.
But still have it look really awesome. I guess, I do see what everybody says when they say a Star Wars thing, but I think when you follow the stories, I felt that Japanese kind of theme going through it a lot more.
I will give props. I'm not a huge fan of Zack Snyder, but he does make visually stunning movies. Like, even the bad ones are gorgeous. So, like, for eye candy, it might be worth the time. I think it's on Netflix, right? Like, it's free to watch. It's just time.
It is. Yeah. You like the spider Vral? Yeah, I thought those were really cool. Those spider tanks, those were pretty neat. Oh yeah, Double O Gold says 7 Samurai. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Exactly.
All right. It's already 9:45. Should we get into the 20 movies, or do you have another one on your list that you want to go over? We can save it for next time.
No, that's it. That's pretty much it. So we've covered everything I watched or want to talk about. I'm dying to hear your report on the Abyss director's cut, though.
Oh, good call. I'm just going to bring that up just in case, because I'm going to forget somebody important in that movie. I loved it. My wife loved it. My wife had never seen it before, so she's only seen the director's cut. We did have to do it over 2 nights, just the way, life works. Mm-hmm. So I saw, for those who don't know, I saw The Abyss for the first time 2 weeks ago, roughly, within the last 3 weeks, for sure. And Brian here was like, "Oh, did you like the part with this?" I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, you did not watch the theatrical trailer." I'm like, I guess I did. I don't know. It just started when I put the disc in. And he's like, "No, go back and watch the director's cut. It's absolutely worth it. It adds so much to the story." And having seen both of them in a fairly short amount of time, I have to agree with you. There are vastly different scenes to this movie, very different connotations for what it means for the world and whatnot. Like, it's so different. The ending specifically, because the ending the first time kind of drove me insane, because it's such a good movie until like the last 6 or 7 minutes in the original version, and then it's just kind of all really falls apart, and like all of a sudden there's just aliens, and you're just like, well, I mean, there's aliens the whole time, but like they just rise to the surface, and you're just like, why? Like, why did this happen right now? Like, why are they all of a sudden exposing themselves? Like, this doesn't make any sense. No, I've not seen Old Boy yet. So in the director's cut, not only are there a ton of little snippets all the way through, it makes way more sense of Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Masterton's relationship, where you actually understand like what happened. Like it really spells out, for lack of a better term, why they got together in the first place, how they worked, why they didn't work eventually. Whereas the first one was just kind of like, she's a bitch. And you're just like, okay, like, why did you get together in the first place then? What's going on here? So it really did flesh that out quite a bit. I don't think it fleshed out anything really going on with the Navy SEALs. I think that was kind of pretty much all there in both versions. Mm-hmm. But you do see like those news reports of what's going on in the real world, where like essentially mankind is gearing up for World War III over this nuclear bomb. Like
it really widens the scope of what's going on.
For sure. Seeing like I think America like attacked a Russian ship, but like didn't attack them. You know what I mean? Like you can tell if you read between the lines, you see what's going on there. You're like, okay. So yeah, it definitely made it a much larger movie, which was really fun. And then when you actually do get to the aliens, and the aliens start like actually showing,
communicating, or whatever.
Yeah, Ed Harris, like why they're there, what they're doing, what their plan is, and like the aliens are about to end humanity. Like they send giant waves to like all the coasts and whatnot because they can control water. Like that's part of their technology. And you see these like 1,000-foot waves just stopping before they actually like kill everybody on the beach and whatnot. You're just like, I get that, like, for 1989, this is a really cool effect. Like, really, really well done. It's unfortunate to have to watch it in 2024 for the first time, but you can still kind of appreciate, like, what they were going for and what things looked like. So, yeah, seeing the aliens' plan, for lack of a better term, seeing why they decided to go against it, like, everything you spoke of was dead on. Like, it just makes the movie so much more fleshed out and interesting. And I finished it the first time, and I was like, okay, I'm glad I saw it. And I finished it this time, and I'm like, I'd watch it again. Like, it really does change the movie drastically. Like, if you have the option to watch The Abyss, make sure you watch the director's cut. I'm assuming those are the only two versions, right? Like, it's not like a Blade Runner where there's like 9 versions out there?
Yeah, okay. That's the only one I know. So, Green Tuckian mentioned Old Boy. There are 2 versions of Old Boy, Green Tuckian, and I'm curious which one you saw. I saw the one with what's his name, who played Thanos, and that movie rocked me. And I heard that the original version of Old Boy was even better, but it's the foreign version, and I tend to lean away from those ones. But I did think that Old Boy was good. And Mongoli, if you haven't seen either of them, you might want to put that on your list of things to check out.
So I actually have a movie poster in the other room. That would actually be a fun thing to go over at one point. Of like not 100 best movies ever made, but like 100 watch before you die kind of movies, like a bucket list of movies. And Old Boy is on there, but I'm pretty sure it's the Korean version. So I will watch it at some point.
I haven't seen yet. The other one was fantastic. It was a little easier to consume as an American who has no class or style. But I'm going to put the original one on my list and probably check it out.
Nice. Elder Jim saying the original is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I warn not to watch with kids. You got it.
Yes. Yeah. Don't even watch the newer one with kids. That one's, I mean, this one pushes boundaries of what society thinks is acceptable. Like it deals with some stuff, and I don't want to spoil it for you because it's kind of the big twist. So,
sure.
But yeah, I think that was pretty good. So
is that one? It's also got Josh Brolin and Elizabeth Olsen.
That's Josh Brolin. Yeah, that's the one I've seen.
Okay.
And I was rocked by that one, which deals with the same kind of issues. But I heard that the Korean one is just bananas, so I'm gonna check out that one.
All right. Well, I don't know. I'll have to see if I have a way of getting that one. I guess I maybe rent it or something. But yeah, maybe we can both check that one out and come back in a couple of weeks. The Korean one, that is. But Jacob, I did read your list. I'm sorry, Brian was talking while you were going over that one. So Jacob cast stones, but my top 5 are Avatar 1 and 2, Avengers Endgame, A Walk to Remember, Tombstone, and Lion King. I'm going to cast stones because that's 6 movies, not 5. But okay, other than that.
And also, that is a very unique list. I think Avatar and Avengers kind of go together, but A Walk to Remember, Tombstone, and The Lion King is a pretty big zig and a zag right there.
I'm not sure. I feel like I can picture the box art for A Walk to Remember, but I don't know that I've seen it.
I think I've
Tombstone's
seen A Walk
great.
to
Lion
Remember.
King's great. Avengers is great. I like the Avatars, but they don't come anywhere close to my top 5.
No, I've never seen A Walk to Remember. Oh, I know that actress though. Okay, so your top 20 list.
Okay, so it's a lie. It is not a top 20. I have 20 movies.
Okay.
Apparently, I went off that screen. 1 second. So we kind of went back and forth a little bit when we were talking about this. It's not going to be, first off, in order, because, I mean, it's tough enough just figuring out your top 20. But
Right.
putting them in order, being like, this one goes above this one, I feel like it would just change daily. Like, there's no way. I'm going to say the top 10 are probably the top 10, but again, in whatever order you want. And then the bottom 10 is going to be more... How do I word
So
it?
I'm gonna
like
judge you.
movies that like I would highly recommend, or movies that like if you want to get to know me, this is my style, more so than like this exact movie is number 11 on my list, period. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because like we were wanting to do this just trying to like get a better feel for each other's taste in movies.
Right.
So that's kind of where I went with
I'm going to
this.
judge you hardcore on this. I'm going to be giving you some quick thumbs ups and thumbs downs if I think that these should be anywhere near a top 20.
Okay. I'm so excited and terrified at the exact same time. Set and Raven, the list is a lie. You're not wrong.
What's up, Sen?
Looking with Zac Efron, Taylor Shelley is my number 2 favorite movies. Step Up is my favorite. For people who love movies, I would also...
Cinephiles is good, Elder Jim.
I love the Cinephiles podcast. I listen to that all the time. In fact, I sent the Citizen Kane one to you. Did you get a chance to listen to that at all, or...
Yes, I started some of it, but then I was like, I'm just going to watch the movie. I don't want them to spoil anything. They took a long time getting going, and I was glad because the movie took me a long time to get through. I had to rent it twice from YouTube. I was kind of upset about that.
That's totally fair. It is. They do go really in depth, and it is better if you've seen the movie ahead of time, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They do an awful job of making me want to rewatch movies I didn't think I wanted to rewatch. You know what I mean? Like, like,
Yeah.
I saw that before. It's good. I'll listen to them. And then like halfway through the box, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go watch it again. All right. Anyways, stalling. So as I said, I'm going to go through my 11 through 20. These are not in any order, and these are not necessarily... They're almost more conversation starters to get to know who I am, right? So we'll just go with that.
All right, let's go.
So for number 20, I put Star Wars. I did not put any specific Star Wars. I just put Star Wars. Now, when I mean that, obviously the original trilogy, being like a person who grew up in the 80s, the original trilogy was all we had for a very, very long time. I couldn't tell you when I first saw Star Wars. It's just ingrained in my DNA. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that
And
original
I
trilogy.
think Star Wars has a place here. I don't know if you can pick one over the other. A lot of people like Empire. A lot of people like Return of the Jedi. Some people even think that A New Hope is the way to go. Most agree that the original three are the ones that belong at the epitome of anybody's list, right?
Yeah. Now, I will say, and I might lose some people on this one. In fact, I will. I will lose people on this one. The original trilogy are, I think, some of the best made and best story-wise. But I've also seen them so much that I'm kind of like, I don't really want to watch these again. Like, unless I'm showing them to somebody, I wouldn't just sit down on a Friday night.
Right.
If I was to
I've seen
sit...
them so many times, I don't want to see them either. But what I do love is when other things make a Star Wars rendition. I just watched Phineas and Ferb, the Star Wars edition, with my kids. I was so happy with that cartoon to watch something. And it was cool because Phineas and Ferb play new characters, and they're going along behind the scenes as the first trilogy, and even some of the other, there's some allusions to the other movies as well, and they're behind the scenes doing their story, and they keep bumping into Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, and it was amazing. So I really like when they do that. Of course, you've got like, what is it, Robot Chicken has one, you've got a Family Guy one, you've got tons of those. I love when they do that.
Yeah. So, if I was to sit and watch a Star Wars movie right now, Force Awakens is, I think, probably the one that I find the most enjoyable. And
Really?
I know everybody's going to be like, oh, it's just A New Hope over again. Yeah, but A New Hope is 40 years old. This one's, like, fun. It's more interesting. I don't know. I really like that one. Call me crazy. I'm not saying it's the best made. I'm not saying
I
it's the
felt
best
there were
made.
too many plot holes in it. I didn't like the way that some people just suddenly adapted to the Force and were completely badass out of nowhere. It just felt like they needed a few more montages of training sequences at least. Something to happen there. That kind of bothered me. I did feel like it was a repeat and they just turned the volume up on it, you know? So I understand that. My favorite was, and this is probably not a popular choice either, was the Rebel one where they end up, and spoiler here, they
Rogue
end up all
One?
dying at the end. Yeah, Rogue One, thank you. Yeah, that was one of my favorite of the newer releases. I felt that one had great character development as well. Just a story that I was invested in those people. I made a connection with those people, and it felt like a real struggle.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, we're probably spending way too much time on each of these, right?
It's gonna go slow. That's for sure. That's why we're like doing one at a time.
I can be up all night long, Dan. I can be up all night long if you want. I got the whole rest of the evening if you want to go.
All right, fair enough. A 19. I'm gonna just number them as if it matters. A movie called Whiplash. This stars J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller. Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right, we found one.
Top 20. I don't know if it's a top 20 for me, but I think that's a fantastic choice, and I'm not going to discredit it for you.
As I said, this 10 is more of a if you want to get to know me kind of a 10, right? So like this is the kind of movie I really, really like. It's not a sports movie per se, but it kind of has that sports movie vibe where it's all building up towards that thing, and like that last performance is just like you're riding on it so much. The first time I saw this movie, I was like physically exhausted by the end of it. Like actually like unpeeling my hands from my seat. I'm just like, how did a movie about jazz get to me that much? But it does. It works so well.
And it's a slow build, but by the end of it, the intensity with these characters, the passion and the hatred for them, I mean, it was amazing. That was an incredible movie, and I thought it showcased some of those actors like I'd never seen before. A whole new level of respect for those two guys.
Yeah, for sure. Next up on the list, and this is an older one that I remember watching late high school, and then for quite some time afterwards, is SLC Punk. This one stars Matthew Lillard. Is probably the only cast member that you'd ever hear of.
Yep. I remember SLC Punk. I'm not a fan of this one. I know a lot of people are. I didn't. It just wasn't for me, I think.
Nope, that's totally fair. What you'll discover is I really like dialogue. I'm a huge fan of dialogue. So you're going to see a lot of, like, I didn't put a ton of Aaron Sorkin on here because I didn't want to be repetitive. But, like, theoretically, if I was to actually do it, you probably would. I really like fourth wall breaking, like where people talk to the camera or, like, is dictation. And I really like really small stories where, like, they take place in, like, one room or, like, one setting. Now, this one doesn't fit that last one, but it fits the first two pretty well. And, I mean, I've been a huge, like, punk fan for quite some time, or at least pop punk or whatnot. So I really enjoyed this movie. I haven't seen it in a little while, but I watched it so much when I was, 18 to 27-ish that it kind of makes it onto the list.
I can't begrudge you this choice. I think it's a very decent choice. Just wasn't for me. I think I've watched that movie twice, in fact, but I haven't seen it in a very long time.
I don't imagine it's one that's going to get better with age. I feel like you have to watch this at the right time in your life.
I think so too. That came out while I was going through my punk phase, and it kind of ended my punk phase for me because it was harder than I was, you know. And I was like, okay, I'm out of my league on this one. I'm gonna go on to the next phase of my life.
Well, like the last scene is him just like, well, what? Oh. After all, I guess I'm just a stupid poser or something like that. And I realize I'm sitting here talking about SLC Punk in my like golf polo shirt from work earlier. I'm like, I was going through my punk phase. Podcast. Next up is another musical movie. I don't know if I've got that many musicals on here. It's an indie movie from England, and it's one that I had to pick up on digital because I could not find it anywhere. Sorry, I had to pick it up on physical because I couldn't find it anywhere. It's called Sing Street. It's a little indie movie from like 5-6 years ago. And what the story is these, I'm going to say high school kids, but like young high school, maybe even like that, whatever that's called, junior high, whatever that in between is. And the main guy just moved to a new school, not really getting along with anybody, meets a girl, falls head over heels for her, but doesn't have any way to talk to her or anything like that. Decides to start up a band and use music to try and woo her.
Okay.
So his older brother's kind of giving him like
coming of age story or no?
kind of. It's his brother's giving him like his old records. So like this kid's going through a musical education, but he's kind of starting with like Duran Duran and stuff like that. So he makes a band, actually has a really, really good soundtrack, but the soundtrack's kind of like all these different like 80s sounding bands, 80s sounding styles. I've actually got a couple of songs on my actual playlist that I listen to daily. Like the music is so good. The story is really fun. They really go all in. Like they make music videos, but they feel like music videos, except for one. One is actually like a full blown like High School Musical kind of situation. But other than that, they feel like actual music videos and stuff like that. Like it doesn't feel like too over the top. Really, really fun movie though. Just a sweet story. I really, really like this one.
Okay, I'll put it on my list. I'll have to check it out. I'm watching the trailer here. I don't know if it's something I would super get into. I'm not a huge fan of musicals. It may not woo me, but I'll give it a shot. I'll give it the old 30-minute try and see where it goes.
No, Trash Can, I'm not going to put him on the spot like that. And also, I might not like the answer, so we're going to leave that one alone. The next one on my list is, I think, yes, the only...
I can answer that for Trash Can Joe. I don't mind answering that. Trash Can Joe, I actually had some clips that I made of Mongoolie for that video, but after reviewing them, they came out more insulting and they didn't really add to the video or have any humor, so I left them on the cutting room floor. And I have plans for lots of content creators from MSF for future videos. And by the way, Dan, I really appreciate you not hassling me for it. There were a few content creators who were offended that they didn't make that video, and it had absolutely nothing to do with anything. But I simply made the best 8-minute video I could, and
that you did.
That's what ended up. And so I didn't put people in there because they have a lot of views on their YouTube channel. I didn't put people in there because they were my friends. I didn't put anybody in there for any other reason than I felt this video would make people smile. It was the best I could do. And I would like to include everybody, but I don't know if you guys know this. There's over 60 people putting out YouTube videos for MSF right now.
Wow.
60 different YouTube content creators. And there are over 75 MSF streamers right now. Or at least there were. Some of them have dropped off, and there are some new ones coming in. That's a lot of people to cover.
100%. Yeah, I wasn't. We've talked.
JT Holmes. Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna read that one out loud.
Nope, that's fine.
All right, back to movies.
No worries. I honestly, okay. We can talk about that later. That's fine. Next one on the list, I think, is the only MCU one on the list, and that's Captain America: Civil War. This is probably my favorite of the MCU. I love the introduction. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and I think they did him perfectly in this one by just having him be a little part of it instead of focusing on him. They just completely skipped his origin story, anything like that. He just already is Spider-Man, moving on. I love the way that they all interacted with each other. The airport scene, like we've seen the Avengers all together since the first Avengers movie. But the airport scene was like something ripped right out of a comic book, like just splash page after splash page, like such an incredibly fun movie. Actually, I don't know how intelligent the plot is, but it doesn't fall apart. Let's put it that way. Like it all makes sense enough. I think this one's absolutely phenomenal, and it's probably one of the more fun ones to go back. I know most people will say Captain America: Winter Soldier is their favorite. I would put this one on before I'd put that one on if I'm just looking for a fun movie. Next up, JB Holmes already talked about it, or at least mentioned it, is Tombstone. I haven't seen Tombstone in a little while, but I watched Tombstone religiously in high school. I absolutely adored this movie. I want to go back to it. I picked it up on Blu-ray recently, but haven't even opened it yet. I am maybe the tiniest bit terrified that it won't hold up to my memory because of how much I love it. But I'm also very excited to go over it again because it's been a long time. I know the mustaches are going to be horrendous for the first 5 minutes until you kind of get used to them. But
yeah,
I really like this one.
So Tombstone was really good. There's a Western with Morgan Freeman that came out not too long ago, and I the name is slipping my memory. I'm trying to find it. that I actually kind of liked a little bit better. It's when they're all kind of these guys are kind of so old, they're kind of going out for one last hurrah to, save the city that's under oppression. It's a general Western theme, and I kind of like that better. I thought Tombstone was great. I mean, Val Kilmer, I'll be your Huckleberry. I got two guns, one for the each of you. These are lines I will never forget. I think it's a great movie if you're into Unforgiven. Thank you, Sen Raven.
I thought you said something about that recently.
I think Tombstone is an excellent choice if you're into westerns. It's really good.
Okay. Yeah, I must have misheard you. I thought you said there was a Morgan Freeman Western that just came out recently, and I was like, oh, I know he's in Unforgiven, but that was like 95 or something.
No, I liked Unforgiven as it was a little bit different take on some others. And then other Westerns that were great too, we have those series that I believe they're on Paramount, the 1927 and 1827. I might have the year number wrong, but if you know those movies, you know what I'm talking about. I'm terrible with those numbers, but I really like those series for Westerns.
Are those the TV show?
Yuma, I didn't like 3:10 to Yuma, son.
Are you talking about the TV shows that are like Yellowstone?
Yes, the Yellowstone spin-offs, yes.
1883, I think, is one.
I haven't gotten through Yellowstone. I got through the first couple of episodes of Yellowstone. I was like, it's okay. People tell me hang in there and it gets really good. Okay. And so I'll probably circle back around to it. But yeah, the other ones blew me away as far as Westerns go. I was so impressed with that. When they're, traveling west from, in fact, they're traveling west from Dallas, Texas, and trying to make it to Oregon. So I'm from Oregon. I now live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so that was, yeah. Oh, Hell on Wheels, another good one, Daddy Rourke. I enjoyed that as well. But I think Tombstone is an excellent choice. There's nothing wrong with that one for your list.
Yep. All right. Next up is, I don't have the year, but the Alfred Hitchcock classic, Rear Window. This is maybe one of my favorites of his. It's, as I said, I like contained movies, and this is like the epitome of a contained movie. It's, oh my God, Alexander's gonna kill me. Gary something.
So it's James Stewart, Grace Kelly, and Wendell Corey.
James Stewart. So James Stewart is a photographer for, I'm going to say National Geographic, but I'm sure that's not right. So he's used to traveling all over the world, going to like really dangerous locations to get the best photo that he can possibly get. He's recently broken his leg and is stuck in his apartment on a very hot summer and can't really do anything. He kind of is living in this apartment where he can kind of see like a courtyard and like into other people's apartments. And he's got like, he's a photographer, so he's got this like high powered camera so he can really zoom in if he has to. And he kind of starts going, I don't want to say crazy, but like stir crazy, I guess.
Okay. And
one of the people across the way from him, like he's got names for all of his different, the people he can see, and like he's kind of keeping up with their lives because like this is 1950 something. There's not really good television or anything like that. He can't really hear
them, but he can see them.
He can hear a little bit because it's a tight little courtyard, right? So things echo. Everybody's got their windows open because of how hot it is. Some of the couples are sleeping on their balconies just to try and like cool down and whatnot. But one of the people gets in a fight with his wife. You can kind of hear something, and then you don't see his wife anymore. And so he starts going like, well, what did this guy kill his wife? Like, am I the only witness or potential witness to what's going on here? And I won't go any further than that, but to say, it's Alfred Hitchcock, so you know it's going to be suspenseful. It's incredibly well done. It is very dialogue heavy, and it is entirely in one location. Like everything is on this one studio lot, right? Like whether he's in his apartment or if anybody goes outside the apartment, it's all in this like tiny little area. So I know that really bothers some people. I love it. I think this movie is absolutely fantastic. I watched
that movie where Ryan Reynolds was in a coffin the entire movie and
enjoyed
it. Like
Buried's great.
Like I can deal with that. I think that's fine, and I love dialogue too. So this is really piquing my interest. I'm putting a star by it. I can't believe I've never even heard of this because I'm a pretty good Hitchcock fan, and I just completely missed this one.
I'm gonna throw another one at you really quickly. Then, have you ever seen Rope? It's
no.
not on my 20, but it's another Alfred Hitchcock one. It's almost more of a play.
Yeah.
But it's a take on, what is it? Alfred, The Telltale Heart. So it's
Okay.
these two guys who killed a friend of theirs and are hosting a dinner party. And I want to say the body is in like a Foot Locker or something in the apartment that they are all sitting in. So the entire movie takes place in this little area. And they're trying, like, one of them is freaking out and like, we got to get out of here. We got to kick all these people out so we can get rid of this body. And the other guy's like, it's fine. You don't worry about it. It's a really good one as well. I really enjoyed that one. Not on my 20, but just like,
Okay.
if you've not
A
heard
good
of it.
mention. All right, I'm gonna write that down too. That sounds interesting.
Next up is the Martin Scorsese classic Goodfellas.
Oh yeah, amazing. Yes, amazing piece.
Yeah. It was kind of, now I'm trying to stick to just like one of each director that I really like. So it was kind of between this one and Wolf on Wall Street.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure Goodfellas is just the better movie. Wolf on Wall Street's
I
very,
think
very
Goodfellas
rewatchable.
is the better movie. I appreciate Wolf on Wall Street as well, but I think you're right in picking the Goodfellas. I think that's fantastic. You know, that came out. There was Casino was another good one that I really enjoyed too. So
I didn't like Casino as much as Goodfellas. Like it,
oh,
like
no,
it's
Goodfellas
good.
is the one. That's
Yeah.
the pick right there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I don't think this is okay. So the next one I'm going to do is a Christopher Nolan. I don't think this is his best movie, but this is the most Dan of his movies, if that makes any
Okay.
sense.
All right.
I like Interstellar way more than most people do.
Oh no, you don't.
Yes, I do!
Interstellar's way high on my list, man.
Really? Oh, this one's the opposite way.
I just rewatched it again for probably the 17th time. I am such a fan of Interstellar.
Oh,
I'm a
good.
big sci-fi nerd. I love hard sci-fi. I love when people get really, really accurate with their science in their movies, and this is probably the most scientifically accurate movie that was ever made. I mean, they had trouble filming this. You know some of the backstory with this, right? Like, what's his name? Kip Thorne was involved in this movie, and they were trying really hard to get like all the gravitational effects and then the black holes and stuff. Like they designed that black hole, which is now featured in a lot of movies. Like if you ever feature a black hole in your movie, you're using the interstellar black hole now because it's so accurate and amazingly beautiful. Oh my God! Go ahead. I don't want to steal this from you. This is your movie,
Oh.
but man, I love that movie too. I'm so glad you said Interstellar.
I was so nervous because you kind of just did this like wind up, like, oh no. I was like, oh crap, he's got like this
No.
movie's terrible. And just like, I thought you were going to rip into me for a second there. I love this movie so much. I love the science behind it. As you were saying, I think some of the concepts on it are quite frankly beyond my understanding, but I still really enjoy them. For instance, I can't quite wrap my head around how time would pass differently on a planet than it would above the planet. I understand it. I've had it explained to me. I get it. It just doesn't quite click in my brain. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's one of those things where like you can be afraid of something even though you know it's safe, but it's still like something in your brain is like, no, you should be afraid right now. It's one of those kind of situations. Anyways, I think this movie is visually stunning. I think it's incredibly acted. I don't have a problem with the ending, even though I know a lot of people do. It's sci-fi, man. Like, sci-fi is willing to take different turns. One of the biggest problems you will ever get with me, like one of my major pet peeves with movies is I will go along with you on any ride. I will take whatever you give me and be like, cool, that's what we're going with. That is the truth of this movie. I will go with it until you break your own rules. That
Yeah.
will drive me insane. Like, if you're going to tell me that, like, you can go back in time in a DeLorean, cool, we can go back in time in a DeLorean. No issue whatsoever. But as soon as you break that rule, I'm out. Like, that just infuriates
time
me.
travel movies have a tendency to kind of explain the rules that they're going to play by in this movie, and as long as you stick to those rules, I'm on board.
Yeah.
But as soon, like you said, as soon as you break your own rules, I'm sorry, I'm upset now because
Yeah.
there's so many different ways that you can go with a time travel movie, and Interstellar rides that line very fine. And I mean, it's hard. Like, the science behind it is so deep, and it's hard to follow. So basically, it gets to a point where I'm not smart enough to understand if they're breaking the rules or not. Is
Yeah.
kind of where it gets to, and I'm okay with that because I don't know if they're breaking their rules or not.
So I
but
saw an
it was
interview with,
amazing.
seriously, I need to prepare for this. The African-American scientist, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I saw an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson where he was going over this movie and he's like, this is accurate, this is accurate, this is accurate, this is accurate, like just praising the movie. And they're like, well, what about the last scene with like the bookshelf and stuff? He's like, nobody's ever been inside a black hole. How do you know what happens in there? And it's just like, okay, fair enough. Like, I guess that makes sense.
They basically reach a point where we just don't know. Like, you can't prove that it's wrong, but you can't prove it's right either. So, yeah.
Daddy Rourke, Sandra Bullock is in Gravity. That is not the one we're talking about here. And yes, it is Matthew McConaughey.
Too.
I didn't love Gravity nearly as much.
It's not making my top 20 list, but no. I enjoyed it for its special effects, and I enjoyed it for the fact that they made it silent in space. I hate when you hear starships whooshing by. That drives me insane.
Tell me how you feel about X-Men 97 when you finish it. Just gonna throw that out there and walk away.
So in Interstellar, there's a lot of times when you don't get to see visually what's happening. You're inside the spaceship, or you're looking out of the window of the spaceship, and you don't get to see what's going on. And I found it really troublesome at first, until after a while you kind of get the feel for this and you realize they don't want you to see these great big special effects until they need the special effects, like the black hole, like the tsunami, you know, like the robot running through the water, those kind of things. They saved all of their special effect budget for the things that you really need to be blown away by, or, you know, at the end and the bookshelf scene inside the black hole and things like that. That's where they saved their budget for. And I totally appreciated that they didn't bother showing you a spaceship launching off from the surface of the Earth. I really kind of thought that was kind of a cool way to go about that. Not to mention the spaceship designs and everything being so realistic. That was kind of cool.
So the other thing that I'll just touch on with this one before we move on is not only is the science fiction like just on par, like I just absolutely love it. It's out there, but it takes itself seriously, which I really, really enjoy. But it's also an incredibly emotional movie, which is like the other half of why I say this is a better Dan movie than it is necessarily an incredibly well-made movie. Now, you're also a father. I'm a father of daughters. Like the scene where he is watching like 60 years of videotapes roll in and he's just losing it. Like I might start crying just talking about it. Like it is such an emotionally hard scene to watch. And then you get to the end of the movie where his daughter is now like twice as old as he is. And he's like, I just have to say, like, I whatever, I'm gonna mess the dialogue up, but he's like, he wants to spend time with her, and she's like, no, I had my life. You weren't a part of it. This is my family. Go find your family. Like, I'm glad you're alive. Thank you for saving humanity. Go away. This is my family now. Like, you weren't there for me ever. And it's just like
Matthew McConaughey in that scene when he sits in that seat and watches that playback was phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was so impressive, so heart-wrenching to watch him go through that. I was absolutely blown away by that scene. I mean, I would say it stole the show, but that entire movie was really impressive to me. So, yeah.
And even like the Matt Damon cameo, which is just hilarious that again we had to go save Matt Damon from something. But the fact that like Matt Damon is like, I just need to get off this planet. I'm sorry that I doomed humanity. I just need to not die here on this frozen waste by myself. Is in a weird way, and maybe this says awful things about me, like so relatable. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, yeah, I wouldn't want to die alone on a planet by myself where that sounds awful. But
it was a real human being dealing with real human emotions. Like they didn't pull any punches in that movie. You know, you had people who were trying to be scientists, but also experienced emotion. Somebody just followed me. I'm not even streaming.
That's been happening to me all week. That's funny though. It's just like, why is there? That's not my notification.
To be also watching Dan. Thanks for the follow.
Okay. I guess I will say probably the better movie from him would be either Memento or The Prestige, but Interstellar is more of a Dan pick. So we'll just drop that and move on.
Okay. I did enjoy both of those titles as well.
I love random follows. And the last one for this list that's not necessarily my favorite movies of all time, but like definitely ones that I want to talk about, comes from I'm going to say my favorite director, but when I say that, what I actually mean is like one of my favorite people on the planet who just happens to be a director. I don't think he is a great director. I just think that I really enjoy everything he does. And that's Kevin Smith and this movie is Dogma. Now, I understand there's going to be a huge line in the sand drawn there for some people on this one because it obviously touches on a lot of religious things and it pokes fun at or whatnot. But I first discovered Clerks like 3 days before I watched Dogma. Like a friend of mine at the time introduced me to Clerks and Akira in our communications class. When we were supposed to be editing and actually working on projects. And I went from there to the video store, and we live in a small town, so we didn't have a whole lot of selection. Dogma had just come out fairly recently, and I was like, hey, that's the same guy. I'm going to watch that. And I probably watched it like 6 or 7 times in that 1-2 day rental span. And I became essentially like a Jehovah's Witness for this movie. Like I would have friends over be like, have you heard the good word of Dogma? You need to come over and watch this movie. And like, I'm not even kidding. I did that to a couple people and they're just looking at me like, why are we watching this? I'm like, because it's amazing. What are you talking about? I grew up in a very religious family. So the fact that he was making fun of, but in questioning, but from a respectful position. You know what I mean? Like he was never like, these people are idiots. Well, he kind of is, I guess, but.
Oh, I think there were some harsh tones with it, but I think it was justified. I think the writing in it was strong enough that he could throw those punches and take those shots, and it was acceptable. I think that they were simply asking questions that needed to be asked and pointing at things that needed to be pointed at. And they weren't afraid to do it, and that's why I do appreciate that movie. It wasn't as stellar a hit for me as other things, but I too was raised in a very strongly religious family. In fact, I was very religious myself. I built churches in Tijuana and did youth ministry in Fresno, and I led men's youth groups all throughout, and now I'm an atheist. That's the short story. I appreciate the movie for where it went and what it did and the questions that it asked, because in that time, it felt like you weren't allowed to ask some of those questions. And they just said, screw it, we're gonna do this, you know? Yeah. And they made an entertaining film along the way.
Absolutely. I think I'm a huge fan of a bunch of people in this movie, to be perfectly honest. Kevin Smith, I'm a huge fan of. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, I absolutely love, especially when they're in movies together, especially when they're buddies in movies together. And I think this is maybe not their best performance, but the best duo. I just love watching the two of them interacting for this movie. I think it's so much fun. I think Clerks is obviously like the Kevin Smith darling, like the one that people talk about. Like it's the indie classic. It's not nearly as much fun to rewatch, but I love the story behind it, like the story of how it got made and the fact that he like kind of just took his credit cards out and bet on himself, and it ended up paying off. Like he ended up making a career for himself just by like, no, I just want to make a movie with my friends, and has done pretty well for himself, all things considered, just by following that script. But Dogma is one that it like speaks to me and that I just enjoy so much more. And just fun little fact, did you know that when this movie came out, there were protesters for this movie? And he actually made a sign and went and joined the protesters and actually is on the news as protesting his own movie.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's funny, though. Doesn't surprise me at all.
There's a funny little clip of it. It's great.
I have a love-hate relationship with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Okay. I've kind of gone back and forth with them for a variety of reasons. I'm probably a little more excited about Matt Damon right now than I am with Ben Affleck. But I do have to say, Jay Alexander, I thought that Matt Damon had a great role in Team America World Police. That was when I was hating on him, and they had that little tiny skit of Matt Damon, and I loved that little bit. So I go back and forth. Like I said, Dogma wasn't anything super huge for me, but again, I appreciate this, and I totally can respect that this is something that you think is worth mentioning.
I had to mention a Kevin Smith, and it's my favorite of the Kevin Smiths. So like,
I'm waiting to give something of yours a solid thumbs down, and I can't so far. I either haven't seen it, or I think it's worthy of it.
Well, that's fair. We can talk about Citizen Kane if you want, and then we can you can bring out the rage a little bit.
I think we'll get there. Let's save that, because I've got questions about that, so we'll get there.
Totally fair. Take everything Jay Alexander says with a grain of salt. Just for the record, I know him in real life, and he's been trolling on YouTube for a while now, and I was ignoring him, so now he's over on Twitch.
Hey, I liked Tenet. He mentions Tenet in here. Obviously not Nolan's best movie.
He's doing that to bug me.
That was the first time travel movie I've seen in a very long time that I felt was new and fresh and got me thinking, right? I don't know if it even made any sense, but it was different, and I appreciate that. It wasn't the same time travel story over and over.
For sure. I enjoy Tenet well enough as a pseudo James Bond movie, but there's so many things about it where I'm like, this, I don't know. Anyways. All right, so now we're going to get into the actual 10. One of this is a cheat, but other than that, it's pretty accurate, I think, unless I'm totally blanking on something, but here we go. And no order, because that would be way too hard for me to do.
But this is top 10.
These are actual, like, top 10 movies. So we're going to start
in no
off...
particular order, but they're top 10, okay.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I always want to call it the Quest for the Holy Grail. I think it's just Holy Grail. This is one of those movies that I watched very young and absolutely changed my sense of humor. Like, if I had to point to things that made me who I am, like, not made me who I am, but like forged my sense of humor, it would be like The Simpsons, early Simpsons, Monty Python, and probably like Princess Bride. Which, spoilers, is also going to make it on this list. You're looking at me like you really want to fight me on this one. This is maybe the first real big thumbs down here.
I know that a lot of people really love Monty Python and the Holy Grail, but for me, it was anecdotal.
Fair.
It just, I laughed at it. I see why other people might really get into it, but I do have trouble sometimes with older movies, going back to them and seeing them, and I go, okay, I see why people liked this, but for me, I think this is something that you should probably watch. If you're a movie aficionado and you haven't seen Holy Grail, definitely want to check it out and see why people talk about it. But for me, it's not going to make a top 20 list for me.
Totally fair. And it's not necessarily one that I would watch like tomorrow, but I've seen it enough and it kind of forged me, so it is what it is.
Now, this is the one, 'Tis But a Scratch, right? That's
correct.
The Holy Grail?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the one, Life of Brian? What's that one?
That's the one where Brian is born in like the stall next to Jesus, and it's kind of like following the Jesus story.
That's right, yeah.
I saw that one like a couple of years ago. So I watched Monty Python or Holy Grail, I should say, when I was like 8, and I watched it a whole bunch since then. I watched Life of Brian for the first time like 2 years ago, and it was kind of the same thing where I'm like, oh, I get it, okay. But it didn't do anything for me.
Right.
The next one is a cheat because it's 2 movies, but it's the same franchise, and honestly, tomorrow it might be different. You can see it in the background there. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark or Last Crusade. These are...
How recently have you seen the Indiana Jones trilogy and the 4th movie?
So Jason Alexander, myself, and another guy, we're working towards doing a movie podcast kind of right before COVID hit. Where we were going to go back through and like rate franchises, and Indiana Jones was the first franchise that we decided to do. So that was probably the last time I saw all 4 of them in fairly close succession. But I've seen Raiders since then with my daughters.
Okay.
So not horrendously long ago. I'm aware that there is some cheese factor here, but I don't care. Like, this is such a part of my childhood. It's such a great movie. It's so much fun. There's still parts of it that I thoroughly find funny and will go back to. I have not seen the 5th one yet. I'm terrified to because I want it to be good and I know that it won't be. I don't like Temple of Doom all that much, and I don't care for Crystal Skull either, but Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade might be perfect. Well, I mean, not perfect is a bit strong, but like perfect for me. Like, they're just so much fun. The music is absolutely amazing. Like, I can remember, like, this is like Star Wars, right? Where I couldn't tell you the first time that I watched them because they were just ingrained in me. But like, I can remember like running around the house or whatnot, just like, it's just, I don't know. I really, really enjoy these movies.
So my only problem with this being on your top 10 list is that you didn't include the Temple of Doom. I think all 3 belong just as avidly as I would say Star Wars, right? I would say Indiana Jones. The only thing is that like with Star Wars, there's some newer movies that have upset a lot of people in the way that they came out and the way that they were produced. I think 4 and 5, I don't even like, if you can get through the 4th movie, then you can get through the 5th movie, right? Dial of Destiny is to me was just another Crystal Skull. I think that they were just really leaning into Harrison Ford being old. I feel like the Crystal Skull, that they were trying to set up Shia LaBeouf to take over the role, and the movie sucked. You know, the movie sucked. And
Yeah.
then nobody wanted Shia LaBeouf to take over the role. And so then they just put out the 5th movie. And it was like, and all that was like a nod to people who liked Indiana Jones and are entering their twilight years or something. Like, it was just all about getting old. I did not like 4 and 5, obviously.
No.
However, I think that 1, 2, and 3, I'm not going to give you a thumbs down for them being on your list, but I do think that the Temple of Doom has just as much merit as the others. Personally, I thought The Last Crusade was the best one myself. That's my favorite with Sean Connery. I thought that was the best.
I think Last Crusade is the most fun. I think Raiders is the better movie, so that's why they kind of flip-flop there. I don't like Temple of Doom, so that's why it's not on the list. And the thing I'm going to fight back on is... Okay, so Raiders, Crusade, and even... Not Dial of Destiny, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull... At least Indiana Jones, and I've heard the Big Bang thing, don't come at me with that. He's trying to achieve something. He's working towards something. He has a goal, he has a end, like he's working on something, right? You get to see him trying to figure puzzles out. Temple of Doom, he literally just stumbles from one room to the next. He has no goal. He has nothing that he's working towards. He just kind of like, oh, there's a diamond in the opening bar. I'm going to try and grab that. No? Okay, we get thrown in plane. Oh, we get thrown out of the plane. We go into India. Like, they literally stumble.
To start the movie. They fall out of a plane and land in this village, and the movie just kind of goes from there. I agree with you on that.
Things happen to him. He is not doing anything.
Right.
I don't know. It doesn't do it for me.
It does make it a bit unbelievable because...
Oh, the whole franchise is unbelievable.
It felt so weird that all this amazing stuff keeps occurring to him and he's so perfectly capable to navigate through it. That was a bit weird, so I can understand that. I just felt that there were such iconic moments in that movie that resonated throughout cinema afterwards that I feel that deserves a place on the podium with the other two. I mean, him pulling, having the heart pulled out in the voodoo scene or whatever, the guy, them lowering her down in the cage and she's, trying to like blow out the lava because she's trying to melt, there's just interesting stuff in there. And then of course you got the kid who is now in Loki and featured in so many movies that came back around. He was in Goonies. I forget the kid's name.
I'm going to mess it up.
Oreo or something. He was Slick Shoes in the Goonies. I forget his name, but he was great in that movie.
He was neither of those things. He was Data in the Goonies, and he's short round here.
For having the Slick Shoes, that's all I can ever remember.
Ki Young Kwan or something close to that. We'll talk about him later. He's coming up.
Yeah.
All right, number 8 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Ooh, good one.
This
Solid.
is absolutely one of my favorite comic book movies, Spider-Man movies, just movies in general. And sure, it features Miles Morales instead of Peter Parker. I'm a big Peter Parker fan. I don't care. They nail Spider-Man so hard in this one. I think it's just so incredibly well done. It's got one of my favorite and unfortunately one of the last Stan Lee cameos in it. The humor is so incredibly good that you can watch it anytime and still laugh. Like, there's still parts of that get to me. The heart of this movie actually connects between Miles and his dad, or I don't know why, but that Stan Lee scene just gets me. Probably because it is one of his last ones. I don't know. I really do like Across the Spider-Verse, but I think Into the Spider-Verse is just a more complete movie. It's just a better all-around package. It doesn't need to have a sequel. I'm glad that it does, and I'm looking forward to the third. It might be the best trilogy ever if they can nail the landing. But this movie, unlike Raiders or Indiana Jones, just stands alone. Like, there's no flip-flopping. Like, this just is the best Spider-Man movie and one of my absolute favorites. Like, I could watch this anytime.
I 100% agree with everything you're saying. I agree that it doesn't need a sequel. Glad it does. And I thought they did a great job with the sequel. This one is a very beloved movie to me because I remember watching this movie, going to movies in the park. And it was an opportunity to be with my community. And we went and saw this on a summer day with my kids, and I'll just never remember the moment. They were so into it. And it was the first time I finally got them to sit through a movie that I liked that was kind of on, they could get into. And it was one of the first times that I actually got to share a movie watching experience with my kids. It was a great movie. I love everything about it. It's super great. Probably going to make my top 20 list as well.
Nice.
I think it's the best Marvel movie ever made. You know, prove me wrong. I don't
Ironically made
care.
by Sony.
Yeah, it's just so yeah, and for them to have the courage to go in such a vastly different direction as far as all of those other Marvel and superhero movies of the time.
Yeah.
And then to absolutely nail it and just blow everybody's hair back with that was great.
Yeah.
Soundtrack, visual effects, voiceover.
Oh, the animation's on a whole new level. Like literally changed the game.
Oh yeah. I play many of those songs are in my playlist that I stream to all the
Same.
time. They're fantastic.
Yeah. I saw the sequel, just a super short story. I saw the sequel with a friend and a friend of a friend. And the friend of a friend, like opening day, like maybe second day, anyway, opening weekend. And the friend of the friend would not shut up during the movie. And it was one of those audiences where everybody's just like laughing and like, woo! And like just cheering. And I'm just like, for the first like 15 minutes, I just wanted to lose my mind and just like sit anywhere else in the theater. But once I kind of got into it, I was just like, no, this is just a fun movie and people are just having a good time with it. Like, stop being pissed off at people for just enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't talking about like, what do you want to go get dinner afterwards? Like, he was just enjoying the movie, and it ended up being one of my favorite movie-going experiences. Like, it actually added to it. So this, when I saw it the second time with my family, and it was a dead quiet movie theater, it was kind of like, You know what I mean? Like, the laughter and all the jokes made it so much better than just like, the next time I watched it, like,
you had a similar experience to the second movie as I did with the first one, because I got involved with the community when I watched it. I was surrounded by people at the park, and we were all talking and getting into it, and there was lots going on, and you know, somebody's kid would fall down, and I'd help them pick up their kid or something like that, and there were interruptions and things. But luckily, I'd already seen the movie once anyway, so it didn't bother me too much. But yeah, just fantastic, feel good movie.
Yeah. Ironic that Cleaning Agent just showed up here. Hi, by the way. My number 7 is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. There we go. We finally got one.
I hate Eternal Sunshine. I don't know why so many people like it. I did not have fun with that. It was depressing. I felt like I had to struggle to get through it. It felt like it was going nowhere the whole time. And when it finally ended, I was just glad it was over. I do not like that movie at all.
All right, I will counter that by saying it's watching it again recently, because I saw it like when it first came out a couple of times, didn't watch it for like a decade, and then watched it I think twice semi-recently, like right around when Everything Everywhere All at Once came out. And it was one of those things where I was like, oh, like this I remember this couple being really sweet together. They're actually toxic AF. Like, they're actually horrendous to each other. And yet for some reason I'm still rooting for them. I still want them to get together. There's so many like little fine touches to this movie where like they're getting there. Okay, so if anybody who doesn't know what this is I'm going to call it a love story, but that's not the right term for it. It's a breakup story, right, I guess, where a technology exists where you can actually have your mind erased, or little parts of your mind erased, so you can forget somebody. So if you're going through a tough breakup, you can just have them removed, and it'll kind of deal with that. So Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet are the stars of this movie, and like I say stars wholeheartedly because I think this is one of the best performances from either one of them. Kate Winslet is playing a very eccentric character, and she breaks up with him and gets her mind erased without letting him know. So he like approaches her and like, what's going on? And she's like, who are you? Very, very weird. So he looks into the procedure, finds out what's going on, decides to get it himself. And the entire movie takes place, a vast majority of the movie takes place in his mind as they're going back through their relationship and deleting every little bit of it. And what's actually happening is he's kind of falling in love with her all over again, kind of remembering why he loved her and going through these scenes where he's fighting like, no, I don't care that these memories hurt. I don't care that I'm sad because of them. These are the memories that made up my life. Like this woman and myself, like this is the life we had together. And for better or worse, I want to have these memories. These memories are worth fighting for. Like there's a couple of scenes where it's just heartbreaking because he's just like, let me save this. Let me save this one piece. Like I don't take everything else, but just let me save this one memory of her because it means so much to me. Even though the relationship itself went sour, and like there's something so strong in that, like, you can't keep things. Life is all about change. Everything changes over time, and sometimes you want to get rid of those things that are going to hurt you or leave you scarred. But everything that you've gone through in life makes you who you are. Whether it's like some of the bullying that he remembers as being a small child, whether it's falling in love with this woman and the thing going sour, the fact that he is like super socially awkward, but all of that is who makes him who he is. And so at the end of the movie, they're both mind wiped. They don't remember each other, but through circumstances I won't get into, they find the tapes of who they were before this. And so he finds Kate Winslet again, and they start flirting a little bit. They get those tapes, and they can hear them saying such awful things about each other, where they're like ripping into them in like a way that only somebody who's known somebody for a very long time can. Like really, really deep stuff. And they're like, I don't understand how I could hate you this much. Like, you seem amazing. I want to still be with you. And they're like, why? Like, this person on the tape who knows me doesn't like me at all, and that person is you. And he's like, I don't care. I can't explain it. Some part of me is still drawn to you. I still want to be with you. And if it hurts me, so be it, because sometimes there's beauty in pain. Sometimes it's okay. I don't know. It's a really tough one, and I can tell I'm not selling you on it, but I just absolutely love some parts of this movie, and some of the memories that he goes through where he's like, he is a full-grown man, but he's hiding under the kitchen table thinking that he's a little kid. Or they're in a bookstore at one point, and like, he's talking to her, but you can see everything around them is slowly getting wiped out because none of it matters. The only thing that matters is the person you're there in time with. So you just see it subtly at first, like the titles on the book start going away. So they know they're in a bookstore. They understand where they're at, but it doesn't matter that, you know, what aisle they're in or anything like that. What matters is that he's talking to Clementine. It's just, some of the photography is really well done. I just absolutely love this movie. It is an indie movie. It is more of an art house movie. I totally get it. But
I can appreciate it for the scenes and the sequences and everything you're saying. I think for me, it was emotionally hard for me to watch people as they are clearly making a mistake, because like you said, those painful memories, they're a part of you. You shouldn't be letting go of them. And I just, the idea that someone would mind wipe themselves just offends me, I guess. And so watching that play out, and I guess I kind of agree actually with the premise of the movie, but having to sit through it and see it just bothers me at a deep level. I did not like seeing people erasing these things from their mind. I can agree with everything you're saying, but I don't want to have to go through that.
That's
again.
fair.
I don't want to have to see that again because it so emotionally bothered me.
I don't know. I think I was just watching you. I don't know that we were actually talking, but I feel like a couple of days ago, you mentioned something on stream where you were like, I don't like listening to sad music. Why would anybody want to listen to something that makes them sad? Was that you?
Yeah,
Am I misplaced that?
Yeah.
That kind of checks out for this movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily a feel-good movie. And I'm not saying that I want to get depressed and cut myself, but like, sometimes you're just in a mood and something like this just hits.
I think you're right. And you know what? There is a time and a place for sad music. There is a time and a place to be in your feels. I just don't like being there, probably because I've battled with depression for so long. And this is a movie where people are trying to escape from depression that was brought on by such a painful experience and such strong emotional attachment to one another. And I just felt like they were going about it the wrong way. I think you need to accept the things that happen to you in life, accept when things go wrong, and accept these circumstances that they are in and go through, and not delete them, and you can appreciate them. And then in the end, it felt like it was all for nothing, because they're just going to start over again, but they don't even remember the mistakes that they made. If they remembered the mistakes that they made and they accepted the flaws in each other and moved past it, they could do something to repair that relationship. But I don't know. I guess I can appreciate it for all the reasons that you're saying, and what Chad is saying about it in there too. I'm not saying that this was poorly done or that people shouldn't watch it. For me, it was just painful to watch, I think.
And that's totally fair. Again, like, this is not a recommendation per se. This is movies I enjoy.
Via 10 movies.
There you go. I mean, in fairness, like, we got through 14 movies before we found one that we totally disagreed on, and maybe it was one of the better discussions we've had so far, so I'll take it. The next one I pair with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind for reasons that I don't know that I'll be able to fully explain. I will try if you're just like, what? This is the newest movie on my list. Yeah, the newest movie on my list. Academy Award, like, just absolutely destroyer. It took every award that year. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I thoroughly love this movie. I watched it actually with Jason Alexander, Jay Alexander in the chat. I watched it with him and another buddy in movie theater, and I was in tears. Like me and another guy were just like dying laughing the entire time. I watched into this, and I strongly suggest don't watch the trailer for this movie. If anything I say gets you intrigued, go watch it as blind as you possibly can. Don't know anything about it. Just turn it on and be like, what? Like, just let it wash over you. I didn't know anything about this.
I went in blind as well, and I felt it was an amazing. I was so blown away because I didn't know what to expect, and I'm really glad I didn't, because it was very different. It was a different movie.
So
I have trouble even explaining this movie to anybody. It was just amazing, and I never would have even watched it had Netflix, which knows me better than myself, continually recommended it as a movie that I would like. Yeah. And finally I was like, oh, fine, I'll click on it. And I watched it. I was so glad I did.
So I watched it with my friends, laughed the entire time, just thought it was absolutely hilarious. Was supposed to go on a date night with my wife the next night to see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And I was like, if you trust me, let's go watch this movie. She's like, you just saw it. I'm like, I do not care. So I actually saw this movie in theaters 2 nights in a row. Only time I've ever done that. And the second time watching it, it's still funny, but a lot more of the emotional beats really, really clicked for me. It's an incredibly, like, it's very funny, it's very silly, it's very out there, but it's also an incredible emotional movie of this journey with a mother trying to reconnect with her husband, trying to reconnect with her father, trying to reconnect with her daughter is the big one. And I was watching this movie with my wife, who I'm a little bit nervous because this is going out to YouTube, but doesn't have the greatest relationship with her mother, about a story of a mother and daughter trying to reconnect and whatnot. And some of these parts, like, I was sitting there in the theater just like, I was not thinking about this from your perspective. I hope this is okay. And she loved it too, so it was fine. But it was just one of those like, oh man, it's got my sense of humor. It's got my sci-fi. It's got my emotional aspect. Like, the music is maybe the only thing where I'm like, oh, it doesn't have any like really good banger tracks that I ever listen to or go back to. I don't
remember the music at all, so I guess
it's serviceable, but it's forgettable.
Fine. However, everything else in that movie, there is just so many opportunities to relate that it really drug me in, and I was pleased by that film.
Just really quickly, Cleaning Agent, does anyone know when this is coming or posted to the tube? Are you asking when you can watch this entirety again on YouTube? Because if so, hit !movies. That is my movie YouTube channel. This will not be posted on the gaming channel. I did that for the first 2 weeks, but I don't want to pollute the gaming channel with movie stuff like that. So you can either watch this live at Twitch, or you can head over to whatever the movie channel is called. Just !movies in the chat and you'll find the link.
I honestly feel like we should be making this into a podcast or something. I feel like it would be something I could totally listen to.
I debated that. I feel like maybe that's definitely something we can work towards, but let's get a structure going first, because we definitely spent like way too long talking about nothing. But I would absolutely love that, theoretically. Yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's okay, so why do I connect this to Eternal Sunshine? Let's see if I can even explain it that makes sense to myself. I think
how do you connect that?
So they're both independent movies. They're both incredibly dramatic with silly elements to them. They're both low budget, high quality, and they both have like sci-fi elements that aren't really sci-fi. They're things that don't exist, but they're not. You're not traveling to outer space. You're not meeting aliens, that kind of thing. I mean, you might as well be in Everything Everywhere. So I say, like, when I show
parallel dimensional travel,
I would argue they don't.
It's pretty hard sci-fi. Yeah, that's true.
I
don't want to spoil it too much for other people.
We could talk off air. Anyways,
right.
So when I like to watch all the Oscar movies, or at least the top, like the best pictures before Oscar night. My wife and parents try to keep up with me, but most of the time schedules don't quite align. So I couldn't shut up about Everything Everywhere. So my mom decided she wanted to watch it. I was like, I don't know if this is your jam. So I decided to sit through Eternal Sunshine with her first, to be like, if you can hang with this, maybe you can go that extra step. But if this is too far for you, there's no chance. So she watched Eternal Sunshine, enjoyed it well enough. I don't think it's one that she's ever going to go back to. And then did watch Everything Everywhere. She's like, okay, like I understand kind of where you were going, but I don't know. I don't know why I connect those two movies, but I think both of them are so out there in a way that no other movies are, that they kind of get pulled together by having nothing else around them. I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
they are very unique movies, aren't they?
Yeah. Moving on to number 5, we touched on is Princess Bride.
Fantastic film. It would make my top 10 list for sure.
Yay. One of the ones we watched as a kid on repeat constantly.
Iconic. So many lines that people remember.
Quote to this day.
Super entertaining. Yes.
Yeah. Watched it with my kids. My kids enjoy it. Not as much as I'd like them to, but I mean, they do enjoy it.
I think Sen Raven says it. It's a perfect movie. I cannot think of anything that is wrong with that movie. There's nothing I would ever change about it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I was not planning on talking about this. I just read a post on, I don't know, Facebook or something, where they were saying, like, you should never remake Princess Bride. Like, that's one of the ones you just leave completely alone. Unless you bring back Fred Savage, have him telling the story. So he's playing the grandpa role, telling it to his daughter or granddaughter. And because it's now taking place in 2024, then you gotta get the, like, everything he's saying, everything he's reading out of the book is verbatim. But then when she interrupts, it'll be in different parts. The actors can be different because it's her imagining them. So it makes sense that she would be picturing people from, like, modern times, not from back then. And you'd have basically the same story, but with, like, little bits of flavor just changed differently, stuff like that. Maybe, like, where she interrupts, what she likes, what she doesn't like, things like that. That could actually be pretty interesting if you had to remake
his daughter and she actually likes the kissing scenes or something. That
exactly.
would be kind of a cool touch. I'd be willing to, well, of course I'd watch it. If they remade, of course I'm going to watch it. So I don't know why they don't, because, I mean, so many people would watch it just to see how it holds up to the original. I like that idea, though. I think I could get on board. I don't know if it would beat the original. I don't know if you could beat the original. But I think that you could produce something that people could enjoy.
I don't think you'll ever beat the original for us, but I bet you beat it for our kids.
Oh yeah, you could. The kids could enjoy it more, because my kids were like, they watched it and they were like, okay, but they were probably too young. I bet if I watched it again with them now, they might enjoy it more. In fact, my son got a little bit freaked out by the screeching eels.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, moving on to number 4. I feel like this will go well, but I could be wrong. I don't know how to describe it, so we're just going to jump right in. Edge of Tomorrow. Tom Cruise and John Krasinski's wife, whose name I'm blanking on.
I don't remember her name. No, very much enjoyed this. I'm kind of a little surprised this is making your top 10 list.
It's just one of those ones that... Emily Blunt, thank you so much. It's one of those movies that is so rewatchable. The sci-fi is just fun. It's not... It's kind of time travel-y, but, like, it's one of those ones where, like, okay, you've got your own rules and we'll just kind of go along with it. So be it. Like, the science doesn't have to make sense because they just tell you what happens and you just kind of ride that wave. I like Tom Cruise more than most. I think this is... random. I like Tom Cruise more than most. I think this is one of the movies where he's kind of given liberty to just kind of have fun with it while still being the action star. You know what I mean? Like, he's kind of allowed to let loose a little bit more than, like, an Ethan Hunt can. I like that he's got the charm, but it really doesn't work for him in this movie. Like, he keeps trying to use it, and people are just like, shut up, grunt. Like, move on and do your thing.
Right.
It's, again, this list is not in any particular order, so this could very well be, like, 10, right? Like, this is not actually number 4 of my favorite movies of all time, but it's definitely on the top 10 somewhere. This is definitely one that I wanted to bring up. I just have a great time every time I watch this one. Is it one of the best movies ever made? Probably not, but it's fun every single time.
I can agree with it being a fun movie. Like I said, I'm big on sci-fi. I love, there's been a recent move towards these battle suits, these exoskeleton suits. We saw that in the other Matt Damon movie. Where they got the spaceship that they're always trying to get up to.
Elysium?
Elysium. And it's visually stunning. I love the whole Groundhog's Day thing. You always hear people say Groundhog's Day when you talk about this movie because that's the idea. He's reliving the same day over and over and over.
Yep.
I thought it was kind like anytime you can do the same day over hundreds, if not thousands of times in a movie and you don't get bored, not for 1 second was I bored with this movie, that was great. My only problem with this, and it's almost a benefit, was that I hate Tom Cruise's character in it until by the end of the movie, I'm okay with him. I don't like him by the end of the movie, but he's changed, and that's always important when your character develops over the course of the film. He's changed, and that's cool. I feel like they did kind of try the romance between the two, right? A little bit, and it doesn't really work. It didn't go anywhere. Like you said, he tries to be charming or whatnot, and it fails. And so there was no chemistry between the two, and I guess that's a good thing. But
he definitely tries to pursue her, and she doesn't want any part of it. She's just so focused on the mission. And even like there are parts where he's like, no, like we've been here 1,000 times. I can't get you past this field. You die here every single time. We've tried everything we can. Let's just go a different direction. Let's just make a life where we can. And she's like, no, like the mission is what's important. We have to. Right. And I think she does like him. Like, I think there's definitely some romance happening behind, like not behind the scenes, but like, I think there is some sort of a romance happening there, but she's so committed to the mission. She's like, it doesn't matter. We have to find a way to save humanity. Because otherwise what's the point of living? Like everybody on the planet's going to die soon if we don't figure this out.
I am surprised that this makes your top 10 list. It's definitely, I would give this a top 25 for me.
Fair.
And I'm big into science fiction. I think what it was is that I was kind of miffed by Tom Cruise. His performance in it, maybe it was the character writing or something. I couldn't relate with his character at all until by the very end of it. I was just kind of like, oh, dude, get over yourself already. Like, you know? And it frustrated me, and they didn't bring in that moment where you get to understand his reservations until way late in the movie, and then finally I'm kind of on board with him, but still not 100% on this character. Everything else about the movie was amazing. Like you said, this is a super fun movie. Definitely should see this movie if you haven't. Entertaining from start to finish. Like I said, they're playing the same day over thousands of times, and you never get bored with it at all. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Yeah.
It's really incredible, kind of funny too. You're always interested to see how he's going to change things each time he goes through an iteration.
Yeah. I don't know. We won't spend too much long here, but I get what you're saying about his character, because he is supposed to be kind of a coward,
kind of a douchebag.
Yeah,
kind of
like,
a douchebag, right?
Like he's playing to type, right? Like a lot of people think that's who Tom Cruise is, and he's like, all right, well, let's just lean into it for this one. I don't know. He didn't bother me.
I think it would have been fine if he was this douchebag character, but I needed to glimpse something earlier on and go, hey, there might be a reason he's a douchebag. There might be this shred.
Not everybody needs a
I
reason.
Can connect with. I just needed a glimpse of it a little earlier in the movie, but you don't get that until he goes to the bar at the end. Like, he finally has enough, and instead of trying to stick with the mission, he just makes a hard left turn and drives to a bar to get drunk. And then you hear him talk, and you see what's going on in his mind, and you see the pressure he's under. And then I was like, okay, I found that shred of relatability to this person, and it was okay, but it took a long time to get there. So it was this point where I wanted him to meet the girl because she seemed like a badass, and I wanted somebody to root for, and it took a while to get to her too. So It was just that I kind of had to grind through that relatability aspect. Everything else about this movie was amazing, so it was good.
Cool. I forgot to throw out another trivia question, so we'll just do one really quickly right now. We're talking about Edge of Tomorrow. In Edge of Tomorrow, Emily Blunt's character has 2 nicknames. Give me either one of them. Do you got it? You can't say it, Run, but do you know?
I know these. Yep, I know these.
We're looking for either one of those nicknames. People in chat can throw that out there. Doug and I talk about it all the time. Blunt said, I know Tom wants to do it, though, hopefully at one point, but it's timing. It's also been 10 years since we made it. There was an amazing script in the process. Helicopter lady. No. Not saying it's ancient. We have a few fashion names. Okay, so Senator Raven's talking about they're discussing making a sequel to this movie. I'm actually very happy they didn't. I think
Yeah, me too. I don't think it
is-
deserves a sequel.
It's fine the way it is.
Yep.
All right. Number
If you made
3.
a sequel, I would like a whole new recasting. I'd like it to take place with somebody else in a completely different way. And I don't know where there's room for a sequel with this. I don't know how they would pull that off.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you so much, Zemo. Zemo just subscribed for his 2nd month in a row, and I appreciate that immensely.
Thank you, Zemo.
Angel of Death is very close, Daddy Roark, but it's not quite right. Okay, so the top 3 were instant came to me. Like this, like as I said, like my top 10, even my top 20. It's kind of like Lady of Verdun. Man, you are so close. My top 20, most of them were kind of interchangeable. My top 3, like these are my top 3 movies. Maybe these 3 could change direction, but none of them would drop to 4th or below. Like this is.
Okay.
Shut up and
Oh my
take
God!
money.
That actually kind of worked. I've been waiting for that for a while. Thank you so much, cleaning agent. Or sorry, Zemo gifted.
Effect there.
Well, because I'm on the wrong screen. I set it up.
Everything broke and I'm here all by myself.
So I set it up for gift donations, right? If somebody gifted, it would actually like break the screen. And I was like, that's really cool. I can't wait to see that. And then nobody gifted more than 1 donation for like a month and a half. So I've never actually seen that happen. And now it happens and I'm on the wrong screen, so it looked weird. But thank you very much, Zemo. I appreciate that. Okay, so sorry. My top 3. I think this is the correct order for them. It might change a little bit, but none of them would drop out of 3.
Okay.
Right? So like this is my official.
Do you have like a 1 though? Is one of them your 1?
Yeah. I think
Okay,
so.
so save that for last. Let's hear about 2 and 3.
Okay.
2 and 3 in any order.
Full Metal Bitch is one of them. Sen Raven. Well done. Sen Raven Penbroke. Cool. Raven with 5 points. All right. Oh, Jaw got it first?
Where did y'all get it? I didn't see where y'all got it.
Oh, he did get Full Metal Bitch. I'm sorry, Jason.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
It's not Jason. I know your real name. I don't know why I call Jason every time. Because Jason Alexander reminds me of the Seinfeld, but whatever. Okay, so Jason gets 5, and then Sen Raven, you get 2. The Angel of Verdun, and yeah, Full Metal Bitch. Anyways, moving on. Top 3. This one, I think we've discussed this in the past, at least a little bit. I like dialogue. Nobody writes dialogue like Aaron Sorkin. Number 3 on my list is A Few Good Men. This is, I didn't realize I was going to talk about Tom Cruise 2 movies in a row. That was kind of an accident, but so be it. This is Aaron Sorkin's first, he did it actually as a play first and then adapted it into a movie. It is infinitely rewatchable. Like this goes right up there with something like Shawshank Redemption, where like back when TBS was a thing, if you see this on TV, like your day's just over. Like you know what you're doing for the next 2 hours. Like this is
that was The Godfather for me.
Yeah, it's just one of those movies like when you see it, you're just like, oh, this is what I'm doing now. Cool.
Yep.
This is also my dad's favorite movie, and I'm not going to try and pretend that doesn't have a huge impact on how high it is on my ranking as well. So it was definitely one that was playing constantly in our household. It is quoted in our family way more than it probably should be. But this is one of those ones where like I could put it on and like do the dishes or just have it in the background, or I could put it on and sit down and watch it, and I'll be captivated either way. If you've never seen this movie, do yourself a favor and check it out. It is absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, I know Aaron Sorkin gets criticized for having Sorkinisms, where he kind of repeats similar things or tones over and over again. But again, this is his first one, so he doesn't have any of those. You're not aware of them yet when you're watching it. It all felt so incredibly fresh the first time. It is the story for anybody who has no idea. Oh, what's the movie? Sorry, it was A Few Good Men. Apparently we had an ad break there for a second. It's Tom Cruise as a JAG officer who has to defend these 2 Navy men? That doesn't sound right. Marines, maybe? Yeah, Marines. They're definitely Marines. Never mind. Has to defend these 2 Marines who were essentially following orders. But were they? And that's like the whole plot. It's like a courtroom drama on a military base. It's got amazing performances from Jack Nicholson, Tommy Cruise. Tommy Cruise? That's something I've never called him before. Okay, we're on with that one apparently. Kevin Bacon, Demi Moore. Like, you've got a look on your face like you're just hating on this.
My money.
Thank you so much. I'm going to assume that was Zemo again, just breaking my screen, just trying to ruin the entire stream. No, thank you. Legitimately, thank you very much for the gifts. I can't actually see what you're gifting, but thank you. I'm gonna have to jump over to Twitch for a second.
Gifted a tier 1 sub to Sen Raven.
Well, I appreciate that. Honestly, I truly do appreciate that. I'm breaking stride, but yes, it's so good. You've got a look on your face like you want to disagree with me so hard, but you're not because it's the top 3.
No. Here's the thing. I know the movie. I know the premise of the movie, and I know the ending of the movie, but I cannot honestly remember watching the movie. Like, I'm pretty sure that I have basically pieced this movie together because it is such an acclaimed film. And so I put it on my list to circle back around and watch it again because I think I've seen it. I know the movie. Like, I know all about it, right? You Can't Handle the Truth. Like, we all know this movie. But I can't remember actually watching it from beginning to end. And I think that's what happened. I think when I was younger, I came in halfway through and finished the film. Because I remember the ending and I know how it goes. So I'm going to circle back around and watch A Few Good Men from beginning to end. And then I'll give you my report. I'm putting that on my homework list.
I was going to say, like, if any of these are on your homework list, this has got to be the one. Shoot, I had something just a second ago. Shawshank Redemption was kind of what you're describing for me. Where I'd seen every scene of the movie probably multiple times, but I'd never seen it credits to credits.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it was like until seriously late in life. And I was watching that, I was like, okay, I know I've seen this. I recognize this scene. I recognize this scene. I recognize this scene. I just don't know that I've ever put it in a DVD player and just like hit play and just watched it for 2 hours straight. It was just one of those, like, it's on TBS and you watch this scene, you watch that scene. Like, I don't know. It's interesting that you say that was this movie for you. Like, I've definitely done that with others, but anyways, number 2 is I feel like we're talking about this duo quite a bit, but this is obviously their best work. Number 2 is Good Will Hunting with Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Robin Williams.
How about them apples?
Just an absolutely incredible movie. Heartwarming. I love the dynamic between Matt Damon and Robin Williams as he is going through therapy and just like kind of
powerful
figuring out how to get his
when
life
he finally
out.
breaks, right? When he finally breaks, it's a powerful scene. Excellent acting in that film.
Yeah.
Really, really top notch.
I've always enjoyed this movie, but as somebody who has gone through some stuff and has been to therapy, it hits a little bit differently now. I'm not going to say like a whole lot different. Like, it was always a powerful movie, but it's definitely one of those things where like, this is so good. I don't know. And like, as I said, like if you put Matt Damon and Ben Affleck together, like they have such a natural chemistry together. I will watch almost anything those guys are in if they're in it together. I think this movie is so incredibly well written, well acted, well performed. It's just one of those easy, again, it's like Few Good Men. Like I could put this on, listen to it, watch it, whatever, and just be completely captivated the entire time.
I think it's solid. Probably not going to make my top 20, I don't think. I have no problem with it being very high on your list. I think it's a great choice. I think it has a lot of aspects. Like I said, I have this kind of love-hate relationship with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck where sometimes I was all about them and sometimes I just never wanted to watch them again. And I think Good Will Hunting was at the end of one of those good runs for me where I really appreciated them and everything, but I was kind of like, I'm kind of over watching this duo now. I want to see them separately and do other roles and everything. For me, that movie was about Matt Damon and Robin Williams. That's what really made that movie for me, and less so Ben Affleck as his friend who's kind of there.
Ben Affleck has a very small part in this movie, let's be clear. Like,
right, yeah. So
it is...
so for me it was definitely that part with Robin Williams. Like I said, that scene where he finally breaks just was so powerful, and I'll never forget that scene. Like it hits you, you know?
Yeah.
And I think as a man, and we watch something like that, and I too have things in my life, went to therapy and stuff like that. So I can relate. I kind of have a feeling I know what you're talking about there, and it was great. It was a great movie. Just not gonna make my top 20 is all. I think there's just other things that I am more in love with than that, but very powerful, very solid pick.
That's totally fair. It's hard for me to criticize other people for their opinions on things, right? Like, unless it's hurting other people in some way. But if it's just a movie that you like that I didn't, I can't tell you you're wrong for enjoying a movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what was, like, Benny had that quote on YouTube recently, like, oh, thank you so much. I'll definitely change my opinion now because of you. It was just like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, like I said, I've only had one solid thumbs down so far. And even after discussing that movie with you, I feel like I even I've learned more about that. And I think I even have a better appreciation for Spotless Mind now because we talked about it, which is kind of weird. I always just was like disgusted that anybody could like that. And now, seeing what Chad is saying about it, I'm like, yeah, that's true. I can see that. So I felt bad watching it, but now I'm appreciating it more. Talking about these movies with you, actually, it helps me to digest what I've already seen and everything. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with you putting Good Will Hunting at the top of your list. I think that's great. I'm wondering if you, I'm wondering if you have a personal story that I'm not asking you to share, but I'm wondering if you have a personal story which makes that movie more impactful for you, because I know I have a personal story that makes that movie impactful for me. And so it was because of that. Some of those scenes in that movie are absolutely stellar, and some of the rest of it was just like, okay, this is entertaining, and that's where it lies for me.
I will not be getting into why I had to seek therapy or anything like that. That's just not something I want out in the world, right? That's for me.
It's not what we're here
I will
for, right?
say, while I was in therapy, there definitely were times where I was breaking down, right? Like I was full tears in the doctor's office. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. I think there is a nasty stigmatism in this country or in the world about therapy, and if you do that, it makes you weaker or whatever. And I don't agree with that in any way, shape, or form. I think it's something there. If you need it, you should absolutely seek it out.
And if you watch that movie, he feels like there is a weakness in exploring himself and opening up to Robin Williams. And when he finally breaks and realizes and I've been through a situation, like I thought that too. I didn't want to open up to a therapist. I thought that was a weakness and whatnot. And so when you finally start to realize that it's okay to open up and explore your weaknesses and talk about them, it doesn't make you less of a person. It makes you stronger. And seeing that unfold in that sequence was huge for me. It was huge.
I can remember, I don't know if this is weird or not to go into. We're going real deep on some things here.
Go ahead, man. It's your show.
It's our show. Thank you very much.
I'm going to let you do the editing and all. So you want to call it our show, sure, but you're doing the editing.
Well, that's why there is no editing. I just throw a freaking thumbnail on top and move on with my life. There's too many other things to work on. I don't know. Yeah, maybe we'll just leave that one alone. When you asked if there's a specific story, things came to mind, but not necessarily things that I want to go super deep on in front of a live audience.
Fair enough.
Okay, so moving on to my number one movie. You asked if there was a clear number one, and every time somebody asks me about, like, what's your top 5 favorite movies, this is the one that jumps to mind. That being said...
This is number one?
This is number one.
This is number one. This is the drum roll.
Yeah, because you were like, oh, this is your top of your list. I'm like, no, it's not. This is number 2.
This is Dan right here. We're getting to it. This is brass tacks right now.
I can't wait for the judgment on this one.
Set the stage, man. Dude, this is a long time coming. It took us a while to get through these 20. So
that's why I was like, maybe we just do like me one week and you the next week or something.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Let's go.
Okay, I will preface this by saying this movie came out when I was in college. And it was one of the few movies that me and my buddies had on DVD. So it saw a lot of rotation, and there's a huge nostalgia factor to this one. I'm not saying it's a bad movie by any stretch, but it's one of those movies where most people would watch once and be like, that was fun, and move on with their lives. But this is college for me, right? Like, this is one of the movies where I watch and I think about laughing at it with my friends and stuff like that, right? Like, this one just hits totally different, and I fully recognize because of that. Judgment incoming. My number one movie, anytime somebody asks me, the first thing that comes to my mind, I want to say I don't know the year, is Snatch.
Snatch, really?
Brad Pitt and Jason Statham and
The pikey accent,
the
huh?
pikey accent movie. I love this movie so much. I can quote scenes from it. Like it's one of it's right up there with like Princess Bride or Monty Python, where like I've seen it so many times, but unlike those other two, this is one that I would just put on for fun by myself, whether I'm showing it to somebody else, I have no idea. But this is one where I just think it's like top to bottom, just amazing. I quote it all the time and nobody ever gets the references where like we'll be waiting for somebody to be like, 2 minutes Turkish, 5 minutes Turkish. It was 2 minutes, 5 minutes ago. Periwinkle Blue.
Snatch is excellent. Snatch is excellent.
Yeah. The soundtrack is fantastic. I mean, it's more techno-y than I normally listen to, but still it's got some great hits on there that I listen to semi-regularly. Like, I don't know, man.
It's also got a raw, gritty feel to it that I really dig.
Yeah. It's also like there's a lot of movies where they have like a cast of characters, there's a word for it, like a large cast of characters, where they've all got their own storylines and they kind of crisscross and overweave. And I feel like this is one of the ones that does it the best, where they don't have to like meet up and have like an ensemble cast. It's got an ensemble cast where they're all got their own little stories. Each story is unique and interesting. They do crisscross quite a bit, but at no point does it feel super forced like you get with some movies, like say Crash or something, where you're just like, okay, I get it. It's about racism. It's a spiritual successor to Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I wouldn't say it's a sequel, but yeah, it's definitely the same director. It's got the same kind of feel to it. I just think it's significantly more polished and rewatchable than Lock, Stock is. And unfortunately, I haven't really seen anything from Guy Ritchie since that I've enjoyed nearly as much, which makes me wonder how much of it is, the college experience seeping in. But I don't know. I'm shocked that there's no pushback on this. Everybody in the audience seems to be, I mean, that I've seen at least, is like, oh, that's a good movie so far. You said you enjoyed it. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll take it.
He did Sherlock Holmes and Aladdin?
Yeah.
Wow.
We don't talk about Aladdin.
Yeah, let's not talk about Aladdin. Wow. He's on, let's see, The Gentleman.
I didn't mind The Gentleman. That's probably the other one that I actually enjoyed, but it's not
King
anywhere
Arthur,
close.
Legend of the Sword was forgettable. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Okay. I have no problem with you being in love with Snatch. I think this is a perfectly acceptable
That's a clip.
top tier film. Not my pick, right? I think Snatch could definitely be on my top 20 list. I think there is so much to be said about this movie, entertainment-wise, the things that occur, the way they go about it. But man, and you've said this several times along this list, you really like the dialogue. This movie has such amazingly fun dialogue. You need to watch this movie multiple times so you don't miss things. There's so much going on with what they're saying and how fast they say it, and those accents are amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great pick, man. I think I don't think chat should be upset with you at all, and I don't see anybody giving you crap for it at all.
And
so I think that's
nobody seems to, which I'm a little surprised at, but totally fine, totally on board with. Daddy Rourke is saying Smoking Aces. I am not a fan of Smoking Aces. I don't know what it is. I've tried that movie 2 or 3 times. I just cannot get through it.
Oh, once was enough for me. Smoking Aces was like Polar. Like, it was entertaining, and that was it. It was forgettable.
Yeah, forgettable is a great way to put it. Ironically, I was thinking I saw another movie recently, and it reminded me of Smoking Aces because it was like I wanted to like that, but I just couldn't quite get there. And I can't even tell you what the movie that is because it was also forgettable. I'm like, what did I watch recently that I thought was Smoking Aces-ish? Anyways, was there any Tarantino on Dan's list? If he's a dialogue lover, there isn't any Tarantino on my list. I do enjoy some Tarantino movies. I don't find them as rewatchable. And I mean, come at me with pitchforks if you want. I saw Pulp Fiction recently, and that movie comes to an absolute halt halfway through with Bruce Willis's storyline, where they're just talking in a hotel for like 45 minutes, or at least it felt like that long. The beginning is fantastic, the end is fantastic, but like the middle of that movie just came to an absolute crawl for me.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction had a a strange flow to it for me as well. I felt like there were scenes and sequences in that movie that were amazing, but as a whole, whatever.
I put Reservoir Dogs higher than it personally.
Ooh, Reservoir Dogs is probably making my top 20 list.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm a huge fan of Reservoir Dogs. I just, yeah, we'll talk about that. That's going on my list for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because in my top 20, I did have a couple movies where I'm like, this is a director I like, and the number one movie, I didn't even think of Tarantino. And I do like Tarantino, but it just didn't pop up.
Somebody was saying Tarantino comes up with the idea to pour booze down Selma Hayek's leg into a guy who drinks it off of her foot, then casts himself as the guy who drinks it off her foot. I thought that was so brilliant, man. That was so brilliant.
What a brilliant director's choice.
Right?
He's got a serious foot fetish, right? And if you know that, you can see it in all of his movies. But never is it more obvious than drinking alcohol off of Selma Hayek's big toe. You're like,
yeah.
Writing credit, you say. Makes sense.
I enjoyed Kill Bill. I thought that was really a cool movie to watch.
I liked Kill Bill the first time. Well, not the first time. The first couple of times I watched it, but I tried rewatching it like a couple of years ago, and I just couldn't get into it.
I think I've only seen, because it's Volume 1 and Volume 2, I think they call it.
Yeah.
I've seen each one once, and that was enough, and I remember it as being fun, and I've heard people say the same thing, like they rewatched it and found it less than the original when they watched it originally. So I'm going to just live with my happy memories, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it was one of those movies where I loved it in 2006 or whatever when it came out, and I tried watching it in 2019. I'm like, it's fine. I don't know.
Yeah. Smelly Fussy Parts, we had the Into the Spider-Verse, which is a Sony, but it's a Marvel.
Yeah, that made it in my top 10.
And Civil War, that's right.
And Civil War was in my top 20. So, yes, some Marvel movies did.
All right, so... Dan, I think your list is amazing. I think it's great. You even are pulling me around to Spotless Mind, which I didn't think anybody could do. I think I can appreciate the film more than I did, though I still don't want to see it again.
Totally fair.
I feel like I know you better after hearing your list. I think there's some fantastic picks. And Snatch coming in at number 1 really says a lot to me. Like, this one came out of left field for me, but after all of these movies and talking about dialogue and stuff, I feel you on this. So I think that's pretty good.
Nice. Well, that was the point of the list, right? Is kind of just like we've been talking for quite some time, but this is our time to get together, talk about movies and whatnot. And we were like, I don't actually know what kind of movies you really enjoy. So it was our chance to kind of break down a list. And so the next time we get together, hopefully Brian will have his top 20 movies, kind of, I don't know, take whatever format you want. We didn't really discuss what the top 20 had to be. So for mine, for people who are just coming in now, 20 through 11 was just like movies I really enjoy, but not necessarily my absolute favorites of all time. And then 10 through 1 are like, no, these are actually, I think, my top 10 movies. I'm
kind of worried that my list will embarrass me. I'm kind of worried because though many of your movies could be on my top 20 list, I think I have a pretty different selection. What I really like, though, is that every time we bring up one of these movies and it leads us to talk about other movies and it leads us to tell stories about ourselves. And
that's the show, buddy.
I get to know you better. And chat jumping in here and stuff. Real quick, I wanted to tell you some of my homework as I do from every time we start talking about this and people are recommending stuff. My homework is I'm gonna give The Room 30 minutes. No? You said don't waste my time on it?
I've never seen it. I can't guarantee it. But it's one of those acquired taste kind of a things. You need to watch a trailer and be like, this looks hilarious, I want to get into it. Or be like, hard pass.
All right. I think
you're either all in or all out.
That sounds better. I like investing less of my precious time.
Right.
I'll give that a big T next to it. So for trailer. The Last Duel, I think I'm going to pass on.
Totally
I think
fair.
I'm just going to let you explain it to me. Sounds interesting. I love movies that show perspectives. I think that's amazing. If you like stuff that shows perspectives, check out the show Kaleidoscope. It's about bank robberies, and you can literally watch any episode in any order. That's what's cool about Kaleidoscope. Really interesting way to look at perspectives. You have the poster behind you, Akira. I've never seen Akira.
I was so tempted to put that on my list. It was one of those like, I don't know.
Right?
It's so good, but it's one of those like.
So many people talk about it, right? So many people talk about it. Like, it's well known. I mean, you put the poster behind you for a reason. People know that film. As far as anime goes, this is a film that should be seen, and I still have yet to see it. So I'm putting that on my list.
So these 3 posters, not The Godfather, but these 3 are actually in my basement. They're actually in the other room next to me. I've got 8 or 9 movie posters over there, and these 3 are on there.
I want to circle back around and watch the Korean version of Old Boy. We talked about that earlier.
Yep, that one's on my list.
I really think you should watch either of them. I loved the Brody one, the American version. That's the one I've seen, and I was blown away by this. Fantastic short little film. I think it's not a long film. It's not like a 2-hour movie or anything. I think it's like a 90-minute film, in fact, if I remember right. But really cool.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
The Old Boy.
Oh, that was Old Boy. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, the American version is the one I've seen. I'm going to watch the Korean version.
Okay.
And then A Few Good Men, I need to circle back and make sure I've seen it from credit to credit. And then I just took some notes on some other things that I really like, just kind of jotting them down, reminding myself that they may go on my top 20 list.
Cool.
You told me about Sing Street.
Sing Street, yep. You
Musicals
didn't
are
sound. It's not a musical. It just has music in it.
Okay. Well, I mean, if we can agree on Whiplash 100%, then I'm definitely going to give Sing Street a shot.
It's a musical in the sense that like Frozen is a musical. Well, I mean that's a bad example. You know what I mean? Like Lion King, right? Like it's a movie that has songs in it, but it is not like Hamilton where every line is sung.
Okay. I can dig that. And then Rear Window is one that I'm definitely going to watch. I'm a big fan of Hitchcock. I don't know how I've missed that. And you mentioned Rope as well, which sounded very intriguing to me. So those are on my homework list for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to try and consume those films as soon as I can.
Nice. Smelly Fussy Parts. It's an interesting name. The Martian would be on my list. The Martian is a great movie. I really enjoy that one as well.
I have real issues with The Martian because unfortunately I read the book first. And the book
never read.
The book just has so much more that when I watched the movie, I just felt like I was missing 75% of the story. You know, yeah, I know it's a movie show. We shouldn't talk about books, but I'm telling you, man, that book was incredible. That was an incredible read for me, and the movie was good. But man, there's just so much more that you miss out. And I did not like the ending because in the book of The Martian, they make fun of that stupid idea that they do at the end of the movie. But the movie does it, and you're like, are you kidding me? And that bothered me so much that they literally do in the book they say, I could do this, and they're like, that's the stupidest thing you could ever do. And then in the movie they do it. It was pissed me off. It was very frustrating for me.
Awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of enjoyed that passion at the very end of it. Speaking of, I don't know, it's been 2 hours, 2.5 hours, we should probably call it, but something I have to bring up because we're talking sci-fi, we seem to both be kind of on the same page with sci-fi. Have you ever read the book Sphere?
No.
Okay. It's a terrible movie. Don't even bother trying. But if you are inclined to read and you do enjoy science fiction, it sounds like both of those seem to be accurate. Michael Crichton's Sphere is probably my favorite book of all time. I
like Michael Crichton. He's got excellent science fiction stories.
Yeah, he's one of the authors.
What's Sphere about?
Sphere, not fear. Just okay. Making sure we're saying the same thing. I want to give as little of it away as possible, so I will say it is a scientist. It's been a minute. It's a scientist who gets. I'm
sorry. Sphere.
Yes.
SPHER.
That is correct.
Okay, I have read the book and watched the movie. Those are amazing. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying Fear, Fear. You're right.
No.
Okay. I'm
Spher.
half deaf as well. Yes, I have read Sphere. I enjoyed the book more than the movie, but I thought they did an excellent job bringing it to cinema.
Hence, I said, don't watch the movie. Like, if you've read the book, you're good. Just walk. You're done. Let's just move on with your life.
The movie again was less of what the book was, but I enjoyed it. The movie was entertaining to me. It felt like they could have done better on that. The book was fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, then that's all I wanted to do. Is just like, if you had not heard of that one, I was gonna be like, ooh, you're in for a treat.
I was surprised that you threw out a Michael Crichton book I hadn't heard of before, so that was weird.
Yeah, my brother can walk into a bookstore and just pick up a random book that looks good and read it. I have to already have some idea how the author writes. So like, when I find an author I like, I will go through their entire catalog. But like, finding a new author is very tough for me. Anyways, this is not a book show. Are you good to sign off? Do you have anything, last thoughts you want to throw out there?
I think I'm good, man. We covered it. I feel the pressure is on for me to develop a good top 20 list. I feel like I might embarrass myself with some of my picks. I know.
I don't see how you could.
Originally, some of my top choices, like when somebody says, "What's your favorite movie?" There is a movie that pops into my mind right off the bat, and I think chat is going to laugh me right off the camera because of this. And I don't want to spoil it yet. You guys will just have to come back in 2 weeks.
All right, so there it is. Brian Run 7 will be back in 2 weeks with his top 20. We'll do this exact same thing, but I'll let him do way more talking. But next week, I'm going to be joined by Cleaning Agent, who I hope is still in the chat. I asked Cleaning Agent to come up with his own top 5. He can make whatever kind of list he wants. I kind of was suggesting, like, maybe give me, like, your top 5, not necessarily that is your favorite of all time, but, like, recommendations for me. But I also just left it open to him. He can figure out whatever top 5 he wants to come on with. So that's going to be next Thursday. Brian here is going to be back the Thursday after that. And then after that, we're going to have top 5 with my brother as we go over our top 5 shocking or twist endings to movies. So definitely spoilers on that one, but you got a couple of weeks to prepare for that. Other than that, I think we are good here. Oh, sorry. If anybody has an idea for a title for this thing, that would be amazing. You can leave it in my Discord. You can let it know here. I kind of like something really simple. I don't think... The one that I've been bouncing around, I can't get it out of my head, is The Lobby. Like, hey guys, welcome to The Lobby. It doesn't quite work. It doesn't quite make sense, but I like something just really like short and clean like that. The name right now is Mongooli's Movie Show. I don't love it. It was literally just something quick and easy to do. But especially
I like that we're dropping the handles and going with our original names now. I kind of like that. Yeah.
Especially once I can actually remember to do it the first time.
Yeah, and like the best thing I could come up with was like Dan and Brian watch movies or something, like, you know, like,
because we're creatives.
Yeah, we this is why we watch movies. We're not creative enough to come up with something good ourselves, right?
Absolutely. All right, man. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to thank everybody for hanging out with us tonight. That was so much fun to go over and chat with everyone. And we'll see you in next week.
All right, bye, everybody.
Cheers, everyone. Bye. Oh, wait. I should probably raid somebody. Is there anybody playing Marvel Strike Force at the moment? I feel like the majority of our audience is still coming from there. Oh, Cleaning Agent is still here. Fantastic. I messaged you top 5 list potentials. Oh, I'll have to check that out.
You've got Comrade Red. Comrade Red is
he's the only one showing up.
He's playing Marvel Strike Force. It's Comrade Red 420.
Yeah, no, I'm following.
I don't have anybody else.
All right.
Oh, White Noise is also streaming too.
We're going to send everybody over to Comrade Red. Give him all of our love. Make sure you follow him. Make sure you follow me if you haven't already. Make sure you're following this guy. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining me tonight. His channel is Run7. I'm sure every single person here already knows that, but just in case. You guys have a great night. I'm
nervous and excited to come back, man.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. See y'all next week. Bye. All right, we are out.